Clearly I was dreaming, and clearly I should have known better. If tower control really reached that height, the first chief to grab one would end the game for everyone else on the board. Then the second half of what he said catches up with me. He mentioned a reduced probability of monster attacks, and I want to know which monsters he means. Every monster in the Dark World lives on the Black Islands, and there is nothing out there that needs a probability reduction. I frown at it, and then the possibility arrives and my stomach drops. I ask Baekhyun whether the monsters in that description happen to come from the ocean. Chungha and the others straighten and look at him. Up to this moment, none of us has ever seen a monster in the ocean, and it is not only us. Nobody in the entire Dark World has ever heard of or seen a marine creature here. Not having seen a thing has never once meant the thing is absent. Water is the source of life, and on any planet with a sea, the creatures in that sea are older than anything walking on land. The Dark World's ocean dwarfs its landmass, and there should be life in it. Baekhyun's face goes serious, and he nods. He says the information the tower gave him does seem to imply monsters exist in the ocean, and that tower control reduces the chance of being attacked by them. He also says nobody has ever laid eyes on a marine creature here. Then he asks whether marine life might have died out somewhere in the Dark World's long history, since the tower is an ancient thing with a long heritage. I nod slowly and tell him we cannot rule that out, and that we also cannot afford to be unprepared. The Dark World sea area is vast past imagining. If there really are creatures down there and they carry real aggression, it will be a catastrophe for every chief in this world at once. The reason we have not met them may simply be that the timing is wrong, that certain conditions have not been met, and that the Dark World has not turned them loose yet. Whatever the truth is, we have to accelerate. Even if the only reason we're guarding against something coming out of the water, every one of us needs to conquer a black tower. They nod along with that, none of them arguing. I move on and ask what the Dark World affinity actually is, and why the reduced monster attack probability sounds like it should belong to the same function. He shakes his head and separates them. Dark World affinity is about reducing the intensity of natural disasters, he says, and about cultivation here sitting more comfortably with the environment, which makes comprehension and breakthroughs easier. That sends me into thought. The Dark World's natural disasters rotate once a month, and since we arrived, we have been through a long list of them. Severe cold, drought, blizzards, and more. They stopped mattering because our strength climbed and we all built self-sufficient internal circulation, so ordinary disasters no longer threaten our survival or our growth. But the Black Tower is a core capability of this world, and a core capability does not hand out aimless, useless functions. So we should assume the Dark World intends to run disasters at an intensity we cannot shrug off no matter how strong we are. We should be preparing for that now. Cheongha agrees and points out that our self-sufficiency only holds because the environment has stayed survivable, and our production capacity is intact. If genuinely terrifying disasters erupted and destroyed our ability to produce, no chief would need to attack another, because we would collapse on our own. I take the other half of it, the cultivation comprehension, and tell them that part is excellent news. Since breaking into legendary rank, my progress is slowed to a crawl. Tier 4 and the mythical rank are not even on the horizon. Legendary mid-tier feels distant, and I have had no sense of forward motion whatsoever. My suspicion is that above legendary rank, advancing takes more than personal comprehension, and requires something the world you live in has to supply. If conquering a black tower raises the rate we progress at, the tower's importance climbs another full level for all of us. Baekhyun nods hard and says he thought he was the only one who felt it. He says that since entering legendary rank he has fought a great many battles across a great many days and feels like he has been standing perfectly still. He blamed his own comprehension for it, and now he suspects it was never his fault but a restriction imposed from outside. He tells me he will cultivate for the next few days and see whether controlling the tower changes anything. I tell him to pay close attention to it, and then I ask the question I have not asked yet, whether the control he holds is permanent, or how exactly it works. He spreads his hands and says there is no such good thing in this world. Holding control does not mean he can relax, because other chiefs can still come for it. They only need to satisfy two conditions. The first is completing the same 6th-floor challenge we just fought through. The second is defeating a clone carrying 100% of his own strength. He says that if both are met at once, he is overthrown. The 5 of us trade looks. Conquering a black tower is not the end of the story, since it can always be taken. Defending it means climbing hard enough that nobody in reach can beat your clone. The other road is attacking first and absorbing every chief in the surrounding sea with the standing to challenge you. And that is not entirely bad news, because if others can challenge us, we can challenge them. No tower is ever permanently locked away by whoever got there first. Understanding all of it puts an urgency in the room that was not there this morning. Even Chungha and Will, who walked in indifferent to the whole idea, now want a tower of their own. I think for a moment and give them my read on the modes. Conquering a tower offers single player and multiplayer, and judging by what the challenge just did, more people is not automatically better. More people means more monsters, and a species like the orcs scales far past linearly as their numbers climb. Other black towers may not be stocked with orcs, and we should assume the worst anyway. Next time we adjust the head count to fit the tower. If you trust your combat power, go in alone, and if you do not, ask me, because when the monster count stays low, my ants can bury the floor in numbers and clear it fast. We talk it through a while longer, then leave Baekhyun's black tower to rest and reorganize. I am one different world away from unlocking the entry condition on my own tower. So I take a short rest, pull out an orange beacon, and choose to challenge a different world in single-player mode. My strength is enough to solo an orange-level world. It is also considerably less efficient than going in with the others, and that is not an option. The run through the tower left Cheongha, 09 and Will completely spent, with nothing left for another fight. I am the one who needs a single conquest to walk into the tower in my region, and after learning what a black tower is worth, I cannot sit still for a day. My main force has always been my ants, and they have recovered almost completely, so I go alone with a beacon in my hand. One more world and I hold the initiative. Once that tower is mine and the sea around me answers to me, no other tower controller gets to make me nervous, and my expansion accelerates. Starting from my own waters, the entire southern region comes under my hand piece by piece. Scorched earth on a fiery red planet. I stand on cracked ground, breathing air so dry it scrapes, waiting for the sentry ants' reconnaissance results. 10 minutes ago, I crossed the temporal turbulence under the protection of the orange beacon's shield, and traveling on a beacon alone appears to be substantially faster. I cannot perceive exact time inside the turbulence, and I could clearly feel the speed of the passage, and I arrived here in under half the usual crossing. The dryness and the red land make this easy to read. It is a planet dominated by fire elements, which means it is starved of water, and without water there is no cradle for life. I have been standing on it for 10 minutes without finding a single living thing, as though the whole planet were a dead star. I am not worried. An orange-level planet cannot be lifeless, and it will not stop at life either, because immature intelligent creatures are a mandatory stage in a world's growth from red level to orange level. My sentry ant broke through to legendary rank recently, and its movement speed and reconnaissance range both jumped, so I expect it to turn up tracks soon. I do not wait long. 5 minutes later, the intelligence comes in, reporting to me that the sentry ant has found life. Swift Shadow, as the ant's frontline commander, delivers it the instant she has it, and she pushes the sentry ant's gathered data straight to me through the species contract. I open the shared intelligence network and look. Roughly 10 kilometers from where I stand, there's a dense scatter of red dots in varying sizes. Each dot a creature, and each size a measure of strength. By those sizes, these things run from gold rank up to diamond rank. They are fire elementals built out of scorched earth and stone with flame burning through the gaps, and the name that comes with them is Scorch Rock Elemental. The stronger one is the bigger its frame, the darker the burnt stone that armors it, and the more violently its fire burns. No legendary rank Scorch Rock Elemental has turned up yet. Even so, running into creatures at this level within minutes of landing says the baseline strength on this world is nothing to sneer at. Finding enemies is good news whatever their rank, because this planet's environment is too extreme for ordinary creatures to linger in. Apart from my self-destruct ants, who are fire attribute themselves and are frankly enjoying the weather, every other clan I brought is feeling it. I nod and give the order for Swift Shadow to command the ants and wipe the enemies out fast, and she answers that she will, and moves. Thousands of ants sweep forward in one motion. After the run of battles we have been through, nearly all my diamond rank ants are dead. Outside of some functional clans still sitting at diamond, every main combat ant I field is legendary rank now. The numbers are not large, and the formation is still a considerable force. A wall made entirely of legendary rank ants is not something a crowd of Scorch Rock elementals can survive when even diamond rank is rare among them. My ant army rolls over the group and crushes it flat, leaving scorched earth and fiery red crystals behind on the ground. That scorched earth is extraordinarily fertile soil, and those red crystals are packed with fire elemental energy, and my eyes light up when I see what these things drop. Soil that raises fertility and boosts crop yields has always sold high, and fire elemental crystals are hard currency anywhere. This world is worth considerably more than I estimated walking in. Both drops land exactly where I need them. My territory holds a large population now with enormous demand for food, so I can absorb any quantity of yield-boosting soil without blinking. And fire elemental crystals are the finest food a self-destruct ant can eat. Mars has already broken through to legendary rank. Whether she wants to push toward a higher realm herself, or keep producing legendary rank self-destruct ants for me, both roads run on massive volumes of those crystals. If ordinary Scorch Rock elementals drop them, I cannot begin to guess what the whole planet holds. What I do know is that taking this different world means I stop worrying about fire elemental resources for a good long while. Between the resources and the tower waiting at the end of this, I am driving hard, and my ants are bound to me heart to heart and catch the mood off me. Their marching speed and their fighting speed both climb. Everything in our path folds at the sight of us, and gets processed into cargo and loaded onto the hover ants. In a little over a day of hard fighting, more than half of every Scorch Rock elemental on the planet is dead. 6 or 7 legendary ranked Scorch Rock elementals go down along the way, and those drop scorched earth and fire elemental crystals too, at a considerably higher grade. The soil from a legendary rank kill is good enough for high-grade plants, improving their growth speed and yield, and the crystals come out purer and denser with energy. And while I am turning an entire fire elemental planet upside down, the world will standing behind it finally decides it has watched enough. I am about to lead the ant army toward the last untouched stretch of the fire element planet, when the ground goes off like a drum. The land splits, and a winding fissure tears open across tens of kilometers, an abyss unzipping itself in a single instant. It catches us badly, and a number of my ants drop straight into it. Then a pair of gigantic hands made of charred black rock comes up out of the depths of that fissure, plants itself on either lip, and shoves outward. The crack, already enormous, is hauled violently wider by whatever is underneath it. When it decides the gap is wide enough, it stops tearing, grips both edges, and hauls itself out. I have been floating in midair with my arms crossed, watching the ground with cold eyes the entire time. The moment the fissure started moving, I pulled my ants back into the spirit-nurturing jar, so I do not lose a single one to the collapse. Coming into the open lets me see it properly. It is 100 meters tall, and its shape is almost identical to the Scorch Rock elementals I have been farming, simply scaled up past reason. The aura is not one level above them. This is a Scorch Rock elemental that has reached the legendary upper tier. Fire element creatures have famously short tempers, and this one locks onto me in the air and opens immediately. Its fist comes up wrapped in flame that runs from red into black and drives straight at me. That is not a fist the size of a sandbag. That is a fist the size of a sand dune, and despite the mass it moves at a speed that has no business belonging to a body that large. Taking it cleanly would not necessarily kill me, and it would take a layer of skin with it. I am fast, and I came prepared. So it does not land. My body flickers sideways and I open the distance in an instant, and the wind off the swing alone still hits me hard enough that calling it a clean dodge would be generous. Backed off and looking up at the colossal Scorch Rock, I decide this is going to be a nuisance. 100 meters tall puts it in the colossal category, and colossal monsters carry vitality that refuses to end. I am not without an answer. One thought, and something moves again under the fissure the colossal Scorch Rock opened for me. 2 brown creatures over 10 meters long climb out of the dark, and they are my legendary ranked tunneling ants. The movement pulls the colossal Scorch Rock's attention, and it turns its head, measures them against itself, and twitches the burnt earth on its skull in open contempt. It is entitled to an opinion. The thing is a proxy creature of the world will and a half-finished intelligent being, and even built like a rock formation it can still express something. Its disdain does not bother me at all, so I smile and send the signal. The 2 tunneling ants start expanding on the spot, swelling several times over in the space of a blink, until each of them is 70 to 80 meters long. Against a 100-meter giant they are still the smaller party, and they are undeniably in the same size class now. There are also 2 of them, and 2 against 1 is an advantage on paper before anybody swings. These 2 are a special breed I had Wang Hian cultivate for me, tunneling ants spliced with colossal creature genes, and this is the first time they have ever stepped onto a battlefield. With the pair of them locking the colossal Scorch Rock down, I have Swift Shadow hold the rest of the ants back and wait for an opening. A fight that looked ugly a minute ago turns manageable. 1 hour later, on the fire element planet, an enormous charred body lies slumped diagonally across the fissure it climbed out of. Silent. That is the giant that was so arrogant an hour ago. It earned its status as an orange-level proxy creature honestly. With the colossal attributes stacked on top, its vitality and defense were both extreme. Even with 2 colossal tunneling ants pinning it in place, killing it took a full hour and drained my ants to nearly nothing. I am not happy about the time, and I did not drag it out by choice, because there was no other option available. As a fire element creature, the colossal Scorch Rock's body resists fire attribute attacks brutally well, and my burst damage still leans too heavily on the self-destruct ants. Detonations that flatten most things did almost nothing here, perhaps 1/10 of their usual effect, which is the entire reason the fight ran an hour. I need a way to add a composite attribute to the self-destruct ants, so their damage stays devastating even against fire element enemies. I file the lesson, take a short break, and collect the world core the colossal Scorch Rock dropped on my way out of this different world. 3 days later, on the dark island, in the plaza, in the Black Tower district, a figure in a vortex mask and a black cloak stands in front of a 7-story black tower, showing more excitement in that stance than a masked man should show in public. The tower tells him entry requires at least 7 different worlds cleared, that the condition is met, and asks whether he wishes to enter. He answers yes. The figure is me, freshly back from a different world. Excited or not, I still spent 3 full days consolidating after I returned, healing and improving before I came anywhere near this place. Stepping inside and seeing the familiar blank expanse with a mysterious black sphere floating at the center puts a smile on my face. 3 days well spent. Every injured ant is healed. Every newly cultivated ant is folded into the ranks, and I burned through every Destiny Star draw I had saved. 2 of them came up diamond-ranked Destiny Stars, which lifted my attributes another step once I swapped them in. A 7-story tower should be harder than the 6-story one Bay Kion cleared, and the gap should not be dramatic, so at my current strength taking it down should not be a problem. I take a deep breath, walk straight up to the black sphere, and put my hand on it. Challenge mode. Single-player challenge. The black tower splits its trial into 2 modes, single-player and multiplayer, and more bodies is not better. Every extra challenger raises the number of monsters refreshing on each floor, and past a certain magnitude the difficulty climbs exponentially rather than evenly. I am already an army by myself, so going in alone is not arrogance, and it is not me overrating my odds. It is simply the mode with the higher success rate and the lower difficulty. Once my selection lands, the black sphere at the center of the space rises slowly and vanishes, and a familiar black teleportation array opens in front of me. I keep my eyes fixed on it, ready to fight from the first breath. Before I ever picked a mode, I released every ant I was carrying and spread them across the space by formation. A full ring of legendary rank black scythe hunting ants already surrounds the array. I wonder how many monsters the first floor hands me, and whether they will be orcs again or something I have never seen. A strange low noise comes off the array, then a flash, and a creature barely 1 meter tall stands in the center. It looks broadly human, 4 limbs and 5 senses, upright, thickly built, wearing a coarse grayish-brown cloth jacket sewn all over with pockets. It glares at me with genuine hatred. Not an orc then, and I do not know whether the guardians differ from tower to tower or simply vary by region. Whatever lives inside a black tower is protected by rules, because my eye of delusion breaking pulls nothing at all off this thing, not even the name of its race. This short, stout creature has to be another intelligent species that once walked the dark world, and Cheongha's world tree should know something about it. Once I clear this tower, I will go ask her. I stopped chewing on where it came from because it appeared here, which makes us enemies with no version of peace on offer. The protective shield over it thins out and dissipates, and I give the cold order to move out. Countless ants surge across the floor in one motion. The enemy is one and we are many, so even legendary rank strength cannot make the smallest ripple here. Almost the instant the shield fails, before it brings a single method to bear, the ant army swallows it whole. I watch my ants tear into the fleeting little shape of it and shake my head with real regret. I was too impatient. There was exactly one enemy in front of me and every advantage was mine, and I should have spent it gathering intelligence. One enemy is no threat, but as the floors climb, the number and strength of the monsters climb too. If I do not understand what they can do, I could take an expensive loss later. Still, I let it go, because it was one monster on the first floor, and even if the second floor increases, the size of that increase has to be limited. I will probe them properly then. I walk to the center where the black sphere has reappeared, and take the next floor. Undamaged, I choose to continue the moment I arrive on the second floor. This time I brief Swift Shadow first and tell her to hold the fight loose on purpose, controlling the pace and drawing the enemy's abilities into the open. Only after 10 minutes of repeated experimenting do I let her close it out. Before the abilities though, what unsettles me is the count, because 2 identical short stout creatures came through the array. The number doubles every floor, exactly like the Black Tower Baekhyun cleared. That worries me badly. If the count truly doubles by a factor of 2 on every level, the low floors are nothing but the high floors turn absurd. At that point it would not matter that I am only legendary rank, because even at mythical rank I could be buried under sheer volume. I frown over it a long while before my forehead loosens. The Dark World would not build a black tower nobody can clear. I am borrowing trouble I do not own yet. With my head adjusted, I go back over what the testing taught me. These short, stout creatures have very ordinary combat power in their own bodies, and although their realm reaches the lower tier of legendary rank, their real fighting strength probably sits below some diamond rank monsters. Their true strength does not live in their flesh at all. It lives in external objects. They carry mechanical gunpowder tools shaped like firearms and cannons. Crude work, nowhere near the refinement of Blue Star weapons. The output is extremely high anyway, as if some special black technology sits under the ugly casings, and wielding them their combat power really does reach the lower tier of legendary rank. Intelligent life is intelligent life, good at turning outside resources into power, no longer merely beasts. Crude firearms that still deliver legendary rank firepower means the technology behind them is not weak. 09 is going to want these. I sweep up every firearm tool the creatures dropped and put the lot into my storage ring. With the testing done, I have a full grip on what they can do, and I run several mental rehearsals of the tactics they might reach for once their numbers scale. I walk swift shadow through the matching arrangements more than once until I am satisfied. Then I repeat myself, cross to the center, work the black sphere, and step into the next floor. The third round puts 4 short, stout creatures on the field. 4 is nothing to me, since the earlier testing gave me their combat pattern, and my plan was to wipe them out the moment the shield dropped. What they do next makes me pause and look at the array with a much heavier expression. These 4 do not stand and wait the way the ones below did. They pull parts out of their pockets at speed and work together, tacit and practiced. And in a very short while, they have assembled a mortar-like device with 4 barrels. The shield that comes with the teleportation array has not dropped yet, so my aunts and I can only stand there and watch it happen. The first floor and second floor creatures never assembled anything. The parts each one carries must be limited, and only when their number reaches a certain level can they pull enough pieces to build. 4 of them put together a mortar, so what do 60 of them put together? This is only the 3rd floor, with 4 more above it, and by the doubling rule, the 7th floor holds 64 of these things. That number sits on my chest with real weight. Before I can carry the thought further, the shield between us quietly shatters, and the mortar, already charged, throws shells into the dense body of my swarm. 4 barrels, but it does not fire 4 shells at once. It fires them one after another in rapid succession inside a very short window, and the battle opens in that instant. 3 minutes later, the dust settles with no suspense in the outcome, because I win. There are simply too few of them, and one mortar cannot cover every angle of a swarm this size. A handful of black scythe-hunting ants take minor scratches, and that is the whole bill. I stand in front of the crude mortar afterward, study it carefully, and cannot make heads or tails of any part of it, so I give up. I have no talent for mechanics whatsoever, and professional matters belong to professionals, so I will pack the whole thing up for 09. There is more in it than a favor to her. If the guardian monsters of every black tower in one area are the same type, then the other towers here will field the same tool-wielding creatures. 09 might develop items aimed specifically at their machinery, which would sharpen my conquest efficiency across the whole region. I bagged the mortar and walked toward the black sphere smiling. The scratched ants did not even need the healing ants, since their own recovery speed put them back to new while I squinted at the barrels. I need to move faster. The counts on these early floors are small, and this is less a challenge than the tower giving me room to adapt, with the real fight waiting up top. Even when the numbers climb, the actual fighting will not run long, because what eats the clock is the recovery period afterward. I am prepared to spend 1 or 2 days taking this black tower, since I would rather advance steadily than chase speed and bleed my ants for it. Every one of these ants is legendary rank, and each cost a mountain of resources and a long stretch of time to cultivate. If one dies in a normal battle, that is a worthy death and I can carry it. If one dies because I was in a hurry, I would never forgive myself. An hour later, I have cleared the 4th and 5th floors in sequence. 8 short, stout creatures on one and 16 on the other. Do not let those numbers look small next to my swarm, because these creatures are tool users by nature. The isolation of the protective shield hands them a free window to build in, and on the 5th floor they assembled an entire war chariot in front of my face. It caused me a great deal of trouble. I rest over half an hour before my condition returns to its peak, then look at the wrecked ground and the waiting black sphere, take a deep breath, and go up. On the 6th floor, the short, stout creatures come out of the black array one after another, without stopping. I frown at the stream of them, but the stream is not what moves me. What moves me stands about 1.2 meters, a head taller than the rest, muscles bulging, wearing a full suit of armor. This armored dwarf commander reads as a leader at a glance, and it is directing the arrivals to assemble a large machine. By the frame alone, it will be a much bigger war chariot. I had long expected a boss monster. The 6-story black tower that Baekhyun and I challenged together also produced one on the 6th floor, and mine has 7 floors and still puts one on 6. So the boss floor is fixed for each tower rather than tied to the top. This one's strength reaches legendary mid-tier, and worse than the strength is the intelligence. A force with a commander and a force that is a chaotic mass are completely different animals, and the gap in real combat power is enormous. I take a breath and feel genuinely lucky about one thing. Solo, the 6th floor holds 32 monsters. Had the 5 of us challenged this together, that number would have been multiplied by 5, and that would have been genuinely difficult. Which leaves a suspicion I cannot shake. The more challengers enter, the higher the real difficulty climbs, and the Black Tower may be built that way on purpose to push everyone toward going in alone. The shield breaks with a sound like ice giving out. A massive war chariot sheathed in gun barrels, loaded with 32 creatures and their commander, comes rumbling at me while it fires, and the artillery opens up across the floor. I stay locked in during the fight, and the time runs away from me. 15 minutes later, the roar and tremor of the cannon fire fade out, leaving only the soft hissing of my ants knitting themselves together, and my own heavy breathing. The battle chariot is a shattered ruin, the floor is a mess, and I let out a quiet sigh. I wanted to keep that chariot as intact as possible for 09, and the fight went so hard it was torn straight into scrap metal instead. I have no idea if it is still useful. I will take it back and let 09 own that headache. I collect every piece of wreckage and do not go straight for the black sphere. The 6th floor gave me 32 ordinary monsters plus a boss, which matches what Baekhyun faced exactly, except that helping him the monster count ran 5 times higher. His black tower only had 6 floors, and mine has 1 more, so I do not know what waits above the 6th. I have to prepare for the worst. I glance at my recovering ant army. The steel chariot those 32 creatures assembled carried extremely strong firepower and heavy defense, and my ants spent real effort to break it. Worse, it was my first time meeting a battle chariot in that form, with no matching combat experience to lean on. Just as my ants were about to finish it, the thing triggered an overload detonation, dumping an enormous load of energy at once. It blew the surrounding ants clear and did considerable damage across the front. It was the thick-skinned black scythe hunting ants pressed closest to it. Thankfully, so although many took injuries and some lost limbs, not one of them died. Under Light Healing's care, they will all come back to peak condition. For the 7th floor, I have to assume the worst. Doubling the 6th means 64 short, stout creatures, and I cannot rule out a boss creature on top of that. I have plenty of time, so I will rest longer and not step up until every ant I own is in optimal condition. I sit cross-legged, pull out a bottle of recovery potion and drink it, then start adjusting my own state. The last fight was intense, and to keep losses down, I joined it myself at range with the Dragonbone Warbow. So while the ants heal, I race the same clock to get myself back. An hour later, every injury is closed, and their energy has returned to full. I check their status over and over, take a deep breath, and walk to the black sphere. On the 7th floor, I do not hesitate, and I start the challenge the moment I arrive. The familiar array opens ahead of me, my eyes narrow, my whole body tightens, and I push my concentration to its limit. A flash passes through the array, and a figure comes out fast. It is still the familiar short, stout creature, but a full size larger than anything below. It is sturdier through the chest and shoulders, and at 1.1 meters it stands second only to the boss creature from the 6th floor. The strength moved with the size. The shield blocks damage but not observation, and my sentry ants read its realm quickly for me. Legendary rank lower tier, but not the state of the ordinary creatures on the previous 6 floors, who had only just stepped in. This one's power aura is thick and full, already at the peak of the legendary rank lower tier, 1 step from legendary mid tier. I frown because that is tricky in a way the number does not show. Do not look at a strength that has not even gained a full tier and call it a small improvement. As the floors climb, the monster count doubles, and under that kind of quantitative change, a slight per unit gain becomes an enormous transformation. Had the 32 creatures on the 6th floor stood at the peak of the lower tier instead of freshly arrived, their combined combat power would likely have more than doubled. Facing an increase like that, of course the pressure lands on me. My body pulls tighter and sweat comes up in my palms. If the pattern holds and the count doubles again to 64, I take heavy losses this time. I lock my gaze forward and accept that in advance. There's no such thing as a battle without casualties, and since I chose to walk forward, the only thing left is to walk forward without fear. The uncertainty in my eyes drains out, and battle intent takes its place. Just as I finish squaring my head, a familiar small sound comes from the front, and it takes me a second to place it. The short, stout creature pulls out a crude firearm and charges my ant army all by itself. In under 10 seconds, that badly misjudged decision is over, and the ant army crushes it into the floor. Never mind the peak of the legendary rank lower tier. Even at legendary mid-tier or upper tier, facing hundreds upon hundreds of my legendary rank ants, its only fate was to be put down, and the single open question was how fast. Then the tower informs me that the 7th floor trial of the Black Tower is passed, and that the challenger Jonghyun has successfully acquired control authority over the Black Tower. I stand there, unable to process it for several seconds before it lands. That familiar clicking sound was the protective shield of the array shattering, which means every monster on the floor had already been teleported out, and the challenge had officially begun. I passed just like that. The 7th floor really only had 1 monster. What I feel is not triumph but surprise, so much of it that it drowns out any joy about taking control. I had just cranked my focus to its ceiling for a bitter, grinding fight, and instead I hauled out a cannon to kill a mosquito. I have no masochistic streak in me. An easy win beats a hard one every day of the week. I smile a little, feeling something close to affection for the pattern. For the first 6 floors, the monster count doubled each level, and the 6th added a boss. On the 7th, the monsters gained a tier of strength, and their number reset to 1. I have not verified further, but the shape of it suggests a 6-floor cycle. Every 6 floors the count climbs to a maximum of 32, and a boss creature appears. And then the whole thing repeats, 1 tier stronger. That is a relief, because monsters gaining a tier every 6 floors is an easier curve than monsters doubling every single floor. Exponential growth is genuinely terrifying, and a stepwise climb is not. I will pass the good news to Baekhyun and the others when I get back. I look at the black sphere at the center. Now that I am master of this black tower, I have control over it. And this sphere is the control core of the whole structure. So I do not walk up and touch it the way I always have. I think about it, the sphere floats over to me on its own, and I lay my hand on it. I can pick which floor to enter, and beyond floors 1 through 7 there is one more. That has to be the floor Baekhyun brought us to after clearing his own tower. The operation floor. A thought puts me there. It is an empty room exactly like the one in Baekhyun's tower, and a single glance takes in all of it. I look around anyway, study the control core, and end up shaking my head in disappointment. They tell me I have gained control of a black tower, and apart from moving around freely inside it, there do not seem to be other functions attached. The short, stout creatures that came at me are not here either. I have no idea where they hide, or whether the guardians live inside the tower at all, or whether the world will of the Dark World deploys them when a challenge starts. Being master of the place does not make me worry-free. Other people can still challenge this black tower, challenge me, and take control away. They would have to fight the guardian creatures from the first floor upward exactly as I did, which means more short, stout creatures exist somewhere. They are either not stored in the tower, or I simply do not hold the authority to command them. I had hoped to pull weapons off these creatures once I own the place, and that is clearly off the table. What I already collected should be enough for 09 to work with, so I leave. 09's Black Island, the machine factory. She thanks me the moment she sees what I brought, telling me it is enormously helpful. She is in gray work clothes like a repair technician, standing over the pile of scrap metal with a fascinated expression. And her thanks come out fascinated expression. Is worth to her. I smile and tell her I am glad it helps, and that I just came across the stuff and scooped it up in passing. If her research turns up anything new, I add, she had better not forget me. She nods hard and says seriously that if there are results, she will make me a batch of items immediately, that she promises. I only said it half as a joke. I laugh and tell her I will be waiting for the good news, wave, and teleport out. Cheongha's Black Island, the World Tree Treehouse. She and I sit facing each other over cups of World Tree tea that clears the head and settles the spirit, with a tree spirit attending us. I contacted her the moment I got back because I have a stack of questions, and I ask whether the World Tree's inherited knowledge holds anything about these creatures. She repeats the description back at me, short and stout, skilled with firepower machinery, fast at assembly, then lowers her head in thought while the verdant leaf at her chest shimmers with green light. A moment later she looks up and tells me with a soft laugh that she has just asked Little Green. In its long inherited record, the Dark World did have creatures matching my description. They are called Islav dwarves, a branch of the dwarf race skilled in the use of combined machinery, and they lived in the Dark World for several hundred years, longer even than the orcs. Islav dwarves, a branch of the dwarf race. I nod slowly and turn the name over. She tells me that if my analysis is right, the guardians of every black tower in my area should all be Islav dwarves, and that I need to be careful. In Little Green's inherited memory, the race are masters of combined machinery, and the battle vehicles I met are only the most primitive expressions of that craft. The pinnacle of their work is genuinely terrifying, and at the very top of it stand 3 colossal divine weapons. I repeat the term back at her. She confirms it and names them: the Sky Giant, the Star Destroyer Railgun, and the Aurora Star. I murmur the 3 names to myself, and though I do not know what any of them do, her tone and the weight of the names say they are nothing simple. Seeing how solemn my face is gone, she smiles and tells me not to worry. Those 3 exist only in legend, and replicating them is extremely difficult. Even with ample materials on hand, the assembly alone could run several years, and given the conditions inside a black tower, it should be impossible to replicate them at all. That finally lets some tension out of my shoulders. After pulling a great deal more information about the Islav dwarf race out of her, I leave contented and go back to my own Black Island, still chewing on the phrase, colossal divine weapons. If 09 knew about those, she probably would not sleep for a week. The only question is whether I tell her, and after turning it over a while I decide not to yet. It is still an uncertain thing, and handing it to her now would only pile worry on her. I will keep conquering the black towers in this area and gather more information first. If the tower monsters in a single area really are all the same creatures, the relevant information should surface on its own as the towers get taller and the difficulty rises. There are 6 black towers in the Dark Island area I sit in, and the 7-story one I just took is the shortest and lowest of them, with the lowest entry requirements. The tallest tier reaches an astonishing 77 stories. From lowest to highest, they run 7, 21, 35, 49, 63, and 77 floors. The higher the floor count, the more dwarves and the stronger they are, and the more methods they bring. If a mere 7-story tower already fielded chariots, what gets built on the 21st and 35th, and what waits at the top of the 77th, it is entirely possible colossal divine weapons actually appear up there. They are far beyond anything I have the right to covet right now. Forget the 77-story tower, because even this lowest 7-story one was a strain on me. I have not met the conditions to enter the 21-floor Black Tower, and if I had, I probably could not clear it. I need to accumulate and consolidate a great deal more, and only with a sufficient ant army do I have a real chance at the taller towers. There is one more idea I keep circling. If the guardians of every Black Tower across an entire area belong to the same race, would something special happen once all of them belong to one person? It is far past anything I can verify at my level, so I file it. The immediate path is unchanged. I keep conquering the different world, which raises my conquest count, unlocks the higher towers sooner, and piles up the resources I need to cultivate ants. That is my main task going forward. Baekhyun mentioned the United Alliance wants us as hired fighters to push up their number of different world clearances, and I would like to know when exactly that starts. Baekhyun's Black Island, in the magnificent Lord's Hall. He sits in an extremely luxurious chair, frowning down at a blue glowing spherical item in his hand. It is a special communication device built by a United Alliance member and supplied to internal members, and unlike the manual, it carries cross-regional, multi-person simultaneous voice and video. The longer humans spend in the dark world and the stronger they get, the more new technologies and abilities keep surfacing, quietly replacing the manual's functions one by one. In the near future, the manual's role may shrink to almost nothing. A light screen projects above the sphere, and on it sits a white-haired old man. Baekhyun grumbles into the device that he wants to know what this is supposed to mean. They were the ones who said they needed his team to help conquer the different world, and now they are backing out. Baek-jin, the current head of the Baek family, answers helplessly that nobody is backing out. He explains that the United Alliance has far too many members, with as many as 12 council members entitled to vote, and the Dark World changes so fast that agreement is already hard. The decision to seek help barely passed 7 to 5. Another week has gone by. Several members have improved significantly in strength, and a few who originally voted yes are having second thoughts. Baekhyun cuts him off and asks whether that means they intend to stand his team up. He tells the old man to drop the useless talk, says their schedule is packed tight, and reminds him they only agreed because they had taken a few favors from the United Alliance. He says nobody on his side is begging, and that since the Alliance does not value them, they will not bother, and then he signs off. He is about to cut the connection when the old man tells him to wait, using the childhood nickname. Hearing that name go by, Baekhyun flinches like something cold went down his back. He snaps that he has said 100 times to use his proper name, and that if it happens again, he really will get angry. The interruption does its job, because he does not hang up. Impatiently, he says he just conquered a Black Tower and is extremely busy, then adds, by the way, that the United Alliance has not conquered a single Black Tower yet, and laughs about it. The old man absorbs the mockery and says helplessly that there is a great deal of hostility toward the family in that tone, and that there may be a misunderstanding. He starts on the nickname again, coughs, and corrects himself to the proper name. Baekhyun asks what misunderstanding. The old man tells him that whatever else is true, he is a member of the Baek family, and right now the strongest person in it. He is stronger by far than his own cousin, who was raised on vast family resources. Nobody wants to hang burdens on him. The point is only that the Baek family will always be his family, and set against that, what is the United Alliance? Their own family members matter most. Joining the alliance was about mutual support, chasing benefits and borrowing momentum from bigger names. Even if the whole thing were destroyed, what would that have to do with the Baek family? His tone softens, and he asks, suspicious now, what the decision to keep his team out is really about. There is a reason it matters more than pride. Jang Hyun and his team hold a limited number of suitable world beacons, nowhere near enough to support that many clearances, and satisfy the Black Tower entry conditions. That makes the Alliance's beacons genuinely crucial to them. Baekhyun had already worked it out with Jang Hyun and the others, that they would run mercenary work clearing instances and bank the clearances. When the change came down, what stung was the thought of breaking his word to them, and that is where the temper came from. Listening now, though, he can hear something folded underneath the words. He pauses, then asks in a low voice, what is really going on? The old man clears his throat, uses the proper name, and admits that the Alliance's decision to cancel their support was something he quietly engineered himself. That leaves Baekhyun more confused than before, and he says so, tone still dissatisfied. He does not blow up because he knows this old man does not act without a reason and does not do things that damage himself. The old man smiles and explains that Baekhyun has never been inside the United Alliance and does not understand what it actually is. Its predecessor was a huddle of powerful Blue Star family forces who banded together after getting results in the Dark World, an organization driven entirely by interests. On Blue Star that would be fine, because under everyone's checks and balances they could keep up the appearance of cooperation. In the Dark World there is the World Will, a power that can drop on them out of nowhere and bring catastrophe. And under that pressure the members will not keep their old manners. Everyone turns greedy for instant results, and everyone turns sensitive and suspicious. The Dark World does not suit a loose organization like that, and the great ship that is the United Alliance will sink sooner or later. He says he does not intend to let the Baek family, handed down for hundreds of years, be buried with a rotten organization. The arrival of the Black Towers is an opportunity to hurry that ship sinking along. Then he smiles slyly and says he knows exactly how strong Baekhyun's team is. How could he let them labor for free on behalf of the very forces inside the Alliance that target the Baek family? Canceling cooperation with the United Alliance, he says, does not cancel cooperation with the Baek family. Baekhyun repeats that last part, puzzled. The old man nods and lays it out. Inside the United Alliance, besides their own family, 2 other forces are bound extremely closely to them, near enough to call a small group of their own. One of them is the Ye family, where Cheongha comes from. Each of the 3 holds 5 or 6 complete orange-level world beacons, 17 between them. That is more than enough to carry out the cooperation, only with fewer participants than before. He asks what Baekhyun thinks. Baekhyun lets out a breath he has been holding since the call started, because he thought the promise he made to Jang-hyun and the others was dead, and instead it turned. He nods and says the fewer people involved, the lower the world suppression effect, and the less there is to worry about. 17 world beacons is not a small number, and after 17 clearances they can satisfy quite a few more Black Tower entry conditions. Then he tells the old man to stop pausing so dramatically next time, and just give him the plan straight instead of stringing him along. The old man strokes his beard, smiles, and starts telling him that a young man needs to learn patience. The light screen vanishes before he finishes the sentence. Baekhyun presses his lips together and tosses the device aside. That old man is genuinely bad, lecturing him again. At least he can finally report back, so he picks up the manual, opens the friend interface, and starts contacting them one by one. On the other end, with the call cut on him, Baekjin smiles helplessly. Beside him, a young woman in professional attire says, with obvious dissatisfaction, that Baekhyun is far too disrespectful and actually dared to hang up on her grandfather. She asks whether someone that lazy and loose is really reliable. This is Baekhwa, a direct member of the family and, by relation, considered Baekhyun's cousin. She is no good in a fight, but she's extremely proficient at management. For her safety, the family head long ago took her as a vassal, so she helps run family affairs from his Black Island. He looks at her indignation with real affection and shakes his head, smiling, and tells her that at her age she is somehow more old-fashioned than he is. This is the Dark World, he says, where not only have the times changed, the world itself has changed, and the old ways do not work. Here strength is king. Her cousin carries Baek family blood, and because he has the strength, he has earned the right to be willful. He adds that going by how the young man talks, the members of that team get more impressive the further down the list you read. Cheongha is one of them, and only a few days ago she badly shook the old men of the Ye family. According to her cousin, Cheongha's strength counts as the lowest on that team, and the truly frightening one is the young man named Jang-hyun. Baekhwa gets along well with Cheongha and admires her enormously, so hearing that leaves her shocked and skeptical at once. Underneath that, curiosity rises about Jang-hyun, the strongest one there. I have no idea anyone is thinking about me. I am in my territory checking the growth of the ants when my manual chimes, and it is Baekhyun, and I already have a guess about what he wants. He tells me it is settled, that we will clear a total of 17 orange-level worlds, that we start in one day, and not to forget. I tell him I will absolutely be there on time. I put the manual down, smiling, and look out at the distance with nothing urgent left to do. It finally came. 17 orange-level worlds is fewer than I expected, which means something moved on their end. An organization the size of the United Alliance could not possibly produce only 17 world beacons, so I work out quickly that the situation changed. It is either internal conflict or a loss of faith in our strength. Either way, these big organizations are not as peaceful inside as they look from outside. 17 is still enough, because once all of those are cleared, my different world clearance count reaches 24, which satisfies the conditions for entering the second Black Tower in my region. I want to know what new equipment the dwarves in that tower are carrying. 09's efficiency is frightening. It has not been a full day since I dumped the dwarf scrap on our floor, and she has already produced usable equipment and tools out of it. Some of it improved mechanical structures and raises the production efficiency of my territory. Some of it improves firearms, and that part matters, because the compressed energy guns I retired long ago after breaking into the legendary rank can now be lifted to the legendary rank level themselves. With those, it is not only my sentry ants that can be equipped, the subjects in my territory can carry them and gain real combat effectiveness. With enough units produced, the hundreds of thousands living under me all become a fighting force that is nothing to sneer at. The production lines are already going up, and the moment they are finished they can start turning out weapons. There is a floor under that, because using the machinery to its full extent takes a certain level of strength. The dwarves who built these things only unleashed their full power after reaching the lower tier of legendary rank. Dwarves are inherently weak though, and even at that realm their actual combat strength sits only around mid to upper diamond rank. Human physical talent may not match some extraordinarily gifted races, but with the right cultivation methods we are still stronger than dwarves. Reaching diamond rank should be enough to nearly maximize what a dwarf firearm can put out. Because I've conquered so many Black Islands, I already have a great many exceptionally talented subjects, and the cultivation conditions I built let them develop freely. No fewer than 100 have broken through to diamond rank 1 after another, clearing the requirement for dwarf firearms, and that count is climbing fast. Once the firearms exist, I equip the talented subjects and form a small team that can fight alongside me. That is a considerable force. Until my ant numbers are fully accumulated, a supplement like that sharpens my monster-killing efficiency by a real margin. After days of every human in the dark world hitting the different world, a lot of previously unknown uses for the world beacon have spread. One is that a lord's vassals can be brought in alongside him without counting toward the total, which keeps them from being singled out by the world will and having their attributes weakened. Measured against the level of battle my group operates at, though, bringing vassals carries a high risk of getting them killed, which is why we never have. Once vassals carry dwarf firearms that changes, and Baekhyun and I and the rest could field 300 or 400 people and take them into the fight. There is only one day left before the agreed time, so we will not catch up on this run. There is no rush, since at our current strength an orange level different world will not cost us much effort, and I would rather let the production lines keep running. I go check the growth of the ants in the ant nest. Over these past days, with unlimited resources going in, my various ant queens have cultivated a great many legendary rank ants, and the total has crossed 1,000 and reached 1,100. The main reason we got there this fast is Swift Shadow, who broke through to legendary rank successfully, and the sentry ants she cultivates are small enough to need relatively little energy and mature faster. The large ones tell a different story, because tunneling ants currently number only 5. All 5 have fused with giant creature genes though, and put on a battlefield they would be flatly terrifying, so 5 is already a lot. Beyond the queens who have reached legendary rank, I look in on the 2 who have not. With unlimited resources feeding them, both sit on the edge of breaking through. Maybe a day, maybe a week, but by the pace they are keeping they should both cross over inside 10 days. Watching my ants flourish like this, I cannot help smiling, because these 10 days are going to be when my strength explodes. I hold the heart of the Lord, and the higher the quality of my ants and the greater their numbers, the more enhancement it feeds back to me. Every time an ant queen breaks through to legendary rank, my physical fitness rises by 10%, so when Leisure Cloud and Thunder both make it, that is another 20%. Back when all my ant queens broke into diamond rank together, it also handed me extra attribute boosts, and I am curious whether that repeats once every one of them stands at legendary rank. I leave the ant nest satisfied. Inside the virtual training force field, I train without stopping, chasing my own climbing strength until my body catches up to it. Half an hour later, I drag myself out, soaked in sweat and completely spent, and the exhaustion is real, but what sits underneath it is joy. Half an hour was enough to almost completely adapt to the sudden strength increase the heart of the Lord handed me, which is absurdly fast, and only the force field makes it possible. Without it, the same adaptation would have taken at least a week, but I already knew what the force field does, so that alone would not put this expression on my face. What actually thrills me is my comprehension of power. During that half hour, I clearly felt my realm move. It has been stagnant since I broke through to the legendary rank, and today it showed a hint of a breakthrough, which I have never experienced, no matter how hard I cultivated. My first thought is that I have accumulated enough and met the conditions to enter legendary mid-tier. My second thought throws that out. Cheongha told me that after the legendary rank, breaking through stops being easy, and relying on personal cultivation alone, even strong talent measures the weight in years. There is no reason for my cultivation to be completely stagnant one day and visibly moving the next. I use the virtual training force field for half an hour to an hour every single day and never slack off, and one day later it is as if a door opened in my head, which leaves one change to explain it. The only thing that happened in that day was that I cleared a black tower. The tower's stated function said clearing it grants control over the nearby sea area and also increases Dark World affinity. While I was training just now, it genuinely felt as though heaven and earth were pulling in the same direction I was, and my cultivation accelerated because of it. That cannot be separated from the Dark World affinity the Black Tower gave me. I had been paying attention almost entirely to the sea area control, and to my very pleasant surprise, this seemingly minor affinity looks like the tower's real core function. Raising a realm demands two things: understanding your own power and adapting to the world environment while comprehending its rules. Increasing my affinity with the Dark World makes the second half easier, so of course my cultivation speed rises. Once that clicks, the excitement is hard to hold down. This Black Tower is a genuine place of strategic importance, since it raises personal strength, increases control over the world, and hides information about an intelligent species, along with apparent access to their resources. That is improvement in every direction at once. I clench my fists and feel the want for these towers hit its peak. I need to speed everything up. Baekhyun's commission gets resolved as fast as possible, and then I take the second Black Tower in this area. That one has a full 21 floors, and the difficulty is nothing small. Going by the cycle I worked out, a boss every 6 floors, and the ordinary dwarves gaining a tier as each new cycle opens, by the 19th floor their strength will have climbed twice over. I do not know what realm that lands them in. Legendary mid-tier for certain, and legendary upper tier is not out of the question. I take a breath and the pressure arrives immediately, and then my gaze hardens, because I am not standing still either. My strength is climbing fast. By the time Baekhyun's commission is finished, my legendary rank ant army should be past 2,000, and at that point a 21-floor Black Tower is nothing. It will be dust under the feet of my ant army. I turn my eyes to the northern sea area on the map. My Black Island sits in the southernmost region, and the area north of me also belongs to the southern sea region. Within a single stretch of sea there are 2 dark island regions, and different regions carry different Black Towers. The one north of me is the territory of Ha Myungwei's Rogue Alliance. In my own region, the floor span between towers is punishingly wide, and although the difficulty is not as bad as the Black Tower in 09's region, it is still high. Ha Myungwei's region looks very different, because the tower he cleared had only a single floor, and even if the others there step up from that, the overall increase should be small. My eyes narrow, and I will admit I am tempted. A Black Tower is a treasure of the Dark World, and a treasure belongs to whoever is worthy of it. Given the strength Ha Myungwei and his Rogue Alliance actually have, there is no chance they hold those low-floor towers forever. Rather than let some other ruthless chief take them, they may as well benefit me. I am the closest thing he has to a neighbor, and since a near neighbor counts for more than a distant relative, that duty falls to me. I found that reason without a shred of shame. In the Dark World, might makes right and morality has nowhere to stand. Geography tempts me even more than the towers do. If I sail my Black Island up into the southern sea region, I can sit in the boundary area between the 2 dark islands. Advance, and I hit the Black Towers in Ha Myungwei's region. Retreat, and I hit the ones in mine. Neither side gets delayed, which is extremely convenient, so I will use these days of helping Baekhyun to move the island toward the target area first. I act on it immediately, taking hold of the Black Island core and commanding the island north, aiming for the stretch of sea that lets me enter his Dark Island region. My Black Island cuts through the waves like a giant warship and runs north with a roar under it. Standing on the Wizard Tower observation deck watching the voyage, I notice something new. Gusts of sea wind are turning around my Black Island and pushing it toward the target direction. And the help is not slight, because I feel the change in speed directly. Doing the math, the sailing speed has gone up by roughly 20%. This has to be the Black Tower's sea area control at work, steering the regional ocean currents to add speed. I experiment out of curiosity and find I really can set the direction of the currents in the nearby sea, and although the effect is not overwhelming, I am very satisfied with it. I only control 1 Black Tower so far, so a weak effect is expected, and this much is already good. It does more than let my island ride the current and run faster. I can also force a target Black Island to sail against the current and drag its speed down, and with that push and pull working together, chasing prey becomes very convenient. I smile and look at the map. As my Black Island drives north, brand new sea regions refresh inside the map's range, and directly above the newly revealed stretch there is a brand new Black Island sailing slowly north. My eyes light up. I have a test subject. I lock my Black Island onto the target and put on speed. It is not directly north of me, only slightly north, so it is barely a detour and more convenience along the way. With the ocean currents carrying me, my island runs at it like a shark with a fix on blood. At the same time, I turn the currents around the target so they flow back toward me. The northbound island's speed drops at once, and the gap between us closes fast. That island covers 312 units, which means it has swallowed at least 2 others of over 100 units apiece, so its strength is nothing to dismiss. Mine only runs 344 units, so the difference in area between us is not large. The chief of that island notices the change in his own speed and checks the map, and he finds the aggressive shape of Jang Hyun's island bearing down on him. Ferocity flashes through his eyes. He had wondered why his speed dropped so suddenly, and now he decides someone has targeted him and used an item to slow him. Somebody is treating him like prey. The entire southern region belongs to the Rogue Alliance, he thinks. So where did this reckless youngster crawl out from? This Rogue Alliance member does not take Jang Hyun seriously in the slightest. Across the entire southern region of the Dark World, the Rogue Alliance is the largest faction there is. Under its frantic expansion, almost the whole southern region has fallen inside their control, and only a few remote pockets, like the southernmost corners, were never brought in. The Rogue Alliance has never cared much about those fringes anyway. Ha Myung-hui is not weak. He counts as upper tier across the entire Dark World, and he would not have been the first man to capture a Black Tower otherwise. There was luck in that, but the strength behind it is undeniable. What outstrips his strength is his skill at networking and management. He understood early that holding a Black Tower without a faction behind him would make him look like easy meat and draw a pack of wolves. Even winning every fight would leave him exhausted from answering challenges. So he took the title of first man to control a Black Tower, added the information gap between himself and everyone else, and founded the Rogue Alliance. After a stretch of consolidation and the removal of anyone who disagreed, it became the largest faction in the southern region overnight, and he became its leader. From that point on, nobody in the whole region dared compete with him for a Black Tower. He sent people to survey the lower half of the southern region and learned the minimum requirement for the towers down there was conquering the different worlds 7 times. So he set the lower half aside and poured everything into the upper half. In the upper half, the tower with the lowest requirement was the 1-story tower he first conquered. The whole upper half holds 9 black towers with floor counts running 1, 5, 10, 15, and onward to 40 stories. Apart from the first, they are spaced only 5 floors apart, which makes the progression smooth. He has since taken the second, 5 stories high, and now controls 2 black towers there. 2 towers pushed his strength up considerably and made his standing steadier across the southern region and inside the Rogue Alliance both. The more towers he holds, the better he understands how important the black towers really are. Right now he is throwing everything at the third one, 10 stories high, whose entry requirement is 10 different world conquests. He has 8 successful clearances and is working on the 9th. As the head of a major faction, he does not lack world beacons, so meeting the condition is only a matter of time. Under his constant persuasion, every member of the Rogue Alliance carries a blind total confidence in his strength, and in the alliances, the member Jang Hyun has run into ranks as a 3rd-level member under the alliance's internal 10-tier system. Ha Myung-hui is the alliance leader and sits outside the ranking entirely. There are only 5 first-level members, and they form the Elder Council of the whole organization. There are only 15 second-level members who serve as deacons directly under the 5 great elders. 3rd-level members number just 100, which in an alliance of over 1,000 makes them elites in fact and not only in title. The man closing on Jang Hyun is one of those elites, and as an elite of the largest faction in the south, he looks down on Jang Hyun as a wild lord and nothing more. When his island's speed dropped, he assumed some item had done it. He has personally watched Ha Myung-hui steer ocean currents and knows that controlling a black tower grants that ability, but the possibility that this stranger controls one never crosses his mind. Even the alliance leader, the strongest man he knows, has only conquered the different world 8 times. In the lower half of the southern region, the shortest black towers all run 7 floors. How could a chief whose island barely clears 300 units have taken a 7-story tower? It does not add up, so he throws the idea out. What he thinks instead is that the timing is perfect. Almost every chief in the entire southern region has already joined the Rogue Alliance, and finding one who has not is genuinely hard these days. He has not swallowed a black island in a long time, and he did not expect to stumble into an opportunity this good while patrolling. If he devours this island of slightly over 300 units, his own area doubles to over 600. At that size, he would have a real shot at a deacon seat and a place nearer the core of the Alliance's power. Heaven, he decides, is helping him. The excitement is past holding down. He swings his black island around and drives it straight at Jang Hyun's. In the middle of all that excitement, he fails to notice one thing. The moment he turned to close, his island stopped being held back at all, and instead it feels like gliding downstream, running noticeably faster. That is not the slowing item he imagined. That is the Black Tower controller's hand on the ocean currents. Standing on the observation deck, I watch the target island refuse to run. It turns around and comes at me instead. I am stunned for a second, and then I smile a little. He dares to turn and close with me on purpose, which is real audacity, and yet the feeling is oddly familiar. Watching that giant black island come at me head-on drags me back to the Vortex event. Back then, a great many chiefs saw my black island and charged straight in rather than running, and without a single exception, every one of those islands ended up part of my territory. Seeing this one refuse to flee actually delights me, because I have run into someone sensible. At slightly over 300 units, his island is quick, and if he had committed to running, even with my current boost it would have cost me effort to catch him. If he had dug in and stalled me instead, I might have ended up late for Baekhyun. To keep that appointment I would have had to let him go, and then I would not get to steal a little time and grow my island's area. It is genuinely for the best that he did not run. Looking at the island closing fast, I cannot keep the anticipation off my face, because at this speed we meet in 1 hour. I tell Swift Shadow to form up, and she answers her master at once. 1 hour later, the two black islands converge exactly on schedule. I stand on the Wizard Tower observation deck and watch from a distance, and even before they touch, I can see a crowd of eager soldiers massed on his side. They are truly impatient. The sturdy man with the black beard at the very front carries the heaviest aura of any of them, strength at peak diamond level, 1 step short of the legendary rank. He has to be the Black Island chief. For a chief to walk into the front rank personally and get this close is something. The more reckless he is, the easier this gets for me. I could not be happier. My ant army is lying in ambush in the forest along the edge of my Black Island. It numbers over 1,000, and every one of them is a legendary rank existence. Even so, they hold to the tactical arrangement and stay carefully hidden, while the opposing chief and his crowd of diamond and platinum rank fighters stand out in the open showing themselves off. It is genuinely comical to watch. The black-bearded chief is arrogant, but he is not tactically blind, and he knows intelligence decides wars. This rogue alliance elite keeps talented scouts under him, and the moment the two islands converge, he does not charge. He signals a subordinate and sends Eagle Eye forward to take a look. Eagle Eye steps out, a tall, thin man with a hooked nose and a cold, arrogant face, and turns eyes as sharp as a hawk's toward the dense forest ahead. One look strips the arrogance off him entirely. He starts shaking from head to foot, backs up 3 staggering steps in terror, and sits down hard on the ground, like a man who has seen something that should not exist. The chief has never seen his scout in that state, and he demands to know what is wrong and what he saw. Eagle Eye points at the forest with a trembling hand, cold sweat running off him, and says there are over 1,000 creatures in there. The chief is unimpressed and asks whether 1,000 is worth this much panic, since he has an army of 10,000 and every one of them is elite. Eagle Eye says that is not it at all, that those are not ordinary creatures, and that every one of those 1,000+ creatures has reached the legendary rank. He forces the whole sentence out in one breath, gasping for air, then sits there as though his soul has left him. The chief asks whether that is true, over 1,000 legendary rank creatures, and the shiver goes through him too. He is the strongest man in his entire territory and still a hair short of the legendary rank. His abilities are not weak, and burning everything he can barely touch legendary rank strength. But against over 1,000 legendary rank units, one flash of it means nothing. It would be like putting a hand out to stop an avalanche. He goes pale, and then he refuses the whole thing outright as impossible. Absolutely impossible. He knows what Eagle Eye can do, and even inside the Rogue Alliance his scouting skill is top tier, so reason tells him the man cannot be mistaken. Emotionally, he cannot take the fact in, because it sits completely outside anything he knows. Something is wrong here. In the entire Rogue Alliance, the only ones who reach the legendary rank are the Alliance leader, the 5 elders, and the 15 deacons, 21 people in total. Tie the whole alliance together, and its combined combat power still could not match over 1,000 legendary rank creatures. If anyone truly held strength like that, they could crush his entire alliance single-handed. And how could a Black Island of barely over 300 units possess it? So it is a trick. It has to be an illusion type ability, or some bluffing prop that inflates aura, painting legendary rank presence over the strength of ordinary soldiers. He laughs and congratulates himself on being sharp enough to see through the scheme, because otherwise he really would have been bluffed. Eagle Eye, badly shaken a moment ago, hears the analysis and watches his own terror drain away, his constricted pupils opening back to normal as joy creeps onto his face. He tells his lord the reasoning is sound, and asks how anyone these days could hold power like that. The enemy clearly meant to bluff them, he says, but overplayed the act so badly that his intelligent lord saw straight through it. The chief strokes his beard, thoroughly smug, and enjoys every word of the flattery. He agrees, and says that if the man had faked 1 or 2 legendary rank creatures, 3 or 5 at the outside, he might genuinely have believed it and conceded on the spot. The fault is the enemy's total lack of common sense, playing a game that big, faking over 1,000 legendary rank creatures in one breath. That is not acting anymore, he says. That is treating him like a fool. An average man might really have swallowed it, but the enemy had the misfortune to meet him, and he has earned the disaster coming to him. Ability users who lean on illusion tricks have always been weak in a real fight, he says, and now that the disguise is seen through, he can take the man down in a single blow. He gives the order for all troops to attack and crush them, and his subordinates roar it back and march at speed toward my Black Island. From the observation deck, I watch the chief hold his position for a long stretch without attacking, and it puzzles me. He may have found something, which is very possible, because these days no chief, however reckless, travels without information gathering props or ability users. I hid my ants as carefully as I could, but the aura coming off more than 1,000 legendary grade ants is too strong to bury. It is a firefly in the dark. However well I cover it, the light leaks, and being discovered is not a surprise. At worst, I launch a full-scale attack and accept that it will be a little more troublesome than an ambush. I shake my head and start to give the ant army the order to move. Then the enemy army, frozen in place a second ago, lights up as though someone put a fire under every one of them, and they come charging at me, chattering the whole way. The whole thing leaves me a little confused. From the observation deck, I can see the enemy force clearly. Their leader did the sensible thing first and sent a reconnaissance-type ability user to comb the dense forest where my ant army hides. The hesitation afterward made it obvious they had learned what waits in there. I assumed they would pull back and regroup. Instead, in one careless moment, they charged straight forward. The sentry ants swept that army earlier and found barely any diamond rank auras in it. If I were not worried they would scatter and slow the wipe, I would have dropped the swarm on them already. Since they would rather run at me than away from me, they are saving me real work. I tell Swift Shadow to take them the moment they are inside the encirclement, and she agrees, calling me master as always. With command handed over, I stop watching and turn back toward the wizard tower. Their fate was sealed when their chief pointed himself at my black island. Out on the plain, the black-bearded chief howls at his people to fire and to level that forest to the ground. His subjects answer as one, and a spread of colored light blooms behind him. Hundreds of skill beams, then thousands, tear across the open ground. The weakest carried platinum rank energy, a great many reach diamond rank, and a handful burn at upper diamond rank. Against that tier of power, a forest of ordinary wood is no different from flat ground. The beams arrive in an instant and swallow the whole tree line. Flame erupts, thick smoke rolls up, and the forest is flattened by that single strike. The chief stares into the smoke with his pupils blown wide, then laughs himself hoarse. He demands to know whether he was not right all along, and calls over 1,000 legendary rank creatures the most transparent lie ever handed to him. Paper tigers, seen through at a glance. His subjects cheer and pour flattery over his wisdom and his unmatched judgment. Eagle Eye's report had frightened them witless an hour ago. Never mind legendary rank. 1,000 diamond rank creatures would already have been more than this army could swallow, and any win would have cost most of their lives. Now that the enemy has been erased, their hearts settle and they start dividing the rewards their lord will hand out after Black Island falls. One man is not celebrating. Eagle Eye, who handles reconnaissance and intelligence for the black-bearded chief, has his brows pulled tight and his face going graver by the second. The whispers around him have curdled into mockery. One voice says he is always cold and arrogant, leaning on his reconnaissance to look down on everyone, and that this time he could not even see through an illusion. Another says it is a mercy they have a wise lord who caught the trick instantly. Eagle Eye ignores every word, sweat beading along his forehead, while he stares into the burning trees. The arithmetic refuses to come out right. If the enemy had used an illusion, the attack would have collapsed it and shown their true rank. Failing that, the attack would have annihilated them and their life forces would have winked out. Instead, 1,000 auras still sit at legendary rank with no fluctuation at all, and after an assault that size, the count of living things has not dropped by even one. He reaches the answer and it drops him into an ice cellar. The auras are real, and his eyes go wide as he screams at his lord to retreat. Panic cracks his voice into something high and raw. The chief, standing not far off, jolts at the sound. Cold and unlikable as Eagle Eye is, he has turned up crucial intelligence again and again, and the sight of him drains most of the chief's anger away. Laughing, the chief scolds him for the fright and tells him not to wreck morale with nonsense. Over 1,000 at legendary rank, he asks, how could such a thing possibly exist? Eagle Eye, a man who never raises his voice, is close to tears as he insists it is true. The chief starts to say he is simply exhausted, then freezes with the sentence half-spoken. Out of the burning forest, one after another, airships dozens of meters long drift into the open. A light dusting of ash and charcoal marks their hulls and nothing else. They slide over the Rogue Alliance army, their underbellies split, and creatures with terrifying auras drop down. Even setting the pressure aside, the look of them is nothing a diamond rank creature could manage. That presence belongs to legendary rank creatures alone, genuine and real. In that instant, the chief and every man under him might as well have been hit with a paralysis spell. Resistance is beside the point, since none of them can move a muscle. It is not cowardice. When legendary rank creatures gather in quantity, their combined aura turns almost physical, and creatures separated by that great a gap cannot push back at all. The battle ends before it begins. I have been back in my room 5 minutes when Swift Shadow reports that the enemy has surrendered to the last man. As her words land, Black Island trembles under me with a low grinding rumble. That is the sound it makes while devouring and merging a defeated island. The outcome was never in doubt, and I feel nothing much about it. I nod and tell her to send Tak Mumgyel to receive the spoils, and she agrees at once. I have devoured dozens of black islands, and taking in prisoners and resources runs itself without a scrap of attention from me. Counting travel, this island took a little over an hour, which is barely any trouble. There is time to digest the gains, and nothing will make me late for the hour, I agreed with Baekhyun. Said beside conquering a different world and then a black tower, 1 or 2 black islands are pocket change. There are no others within a day of sailing, so I let it drop. In an area already holding a black island of over 300 units, the odds of another surfacing are low. One look at the sea map and I put the idea aside and keep steering north. Even when the agreed hour comes and we conquer the orange-level world, that will not eat much of my schedule. Orange-level worlds prize the intelligent life native to them, and with the strength my companions and I carry, taking one will not run past a day. If Black Islands surface nearby during the rest afterward, we can pick them up in passing. So Black Island keeps sailing while I recover. The sooner I reach the upper half of the southern region's sea, the sooner I take Ha Myung-wei's Black Tower off him. For me, swallowing a frontier black island of the Rogue Alliance was a convenience I barely registered. For the Rogue Alliance, it is an eruption. What I devoured was no ordinary member, but an elite, one of the top 10% in the whole organization. An Alliance elite beaten and eaten in the desolate southern wastes sets off immediate uproar. That uproar has not spread far, and for now the news circulates only among members at Elder level. In the Elder Council channel, 5 elders trade angry words across a video link. One demands to know how an elite could be lost in that godforsaken wasteland when the area was supposedly cleared. An unkempt, shaggy-bearded man says anxiously that this had to happen while the Alliance leader is in seclusion conquering the Black Tower. He will be furious when he surfaces. The thought of Ha Myung-hui angry makes all 5 of them shudder despite their high seats. He built the Rogue Alliance framework fast, using the Black Tower's power and a slogan promising that anyone who came was a good brother. Once he had complete control, he showed what he actually was, and did many things that frightened even the elders. None of them wants to be called to account when his seclusion ends. Losing an elder's seat would be the small half of it. The real terror is being stripped of their own black islands, which has already happened to several elders who performed poorly. It cost them nothing but their power, and power is the whole of it. Falling from chief of a black island of thousands of units to ordinary vassal is not survivable with pride intact. Once you have tasted authority, you never walk away from it, so they turn to repair. Since it has happened, one of them says, chewing it over is useless, and the only path is to make up for it fast. Capture the culprit who dared provoke the Rogue Alliance, and the whole thing can still be salvaged. Then a young male elder with short blue hair, who looks no older than his 20s, speaks in a teasing drawl. If this is not resolved before the Alliance leader emerges, he says, someone is going to be in a great deal of trouble. He shows no urgency at all. The moment the third elder finishes, the other 3 turn their eyes toward a young female elder with long black hair in a very aloof manner. She snorts. She grants that the southern region is her responsibility, and that a problem there means her subordinates were incompetent. She tells the third elder to spare himself the worry, since she will resolve it before the Alliance leader ends his seclusion. As soon as the words are out, her avatar vanishes from the channel. She is hung up on all of them without another syllable. Not one of the remaining 4 is surprised, because this is simply how she is. They agree that the 5th elder is as uniquely herself as ever. Facing a crisis this severe without panic is exactly why she rose from ordinary member to elder faster than anyone. Then they circle to what interests them more. Anyone who reaches elite rank here is not weak, and this one lost communication without getting a signal out, which makes the enemy strong. Somebody asks why the 3rd elder did not warn her. He answers mildly that he intended to, and that she hung up of her own accord. The rest agree she is far too proud to see the old-timers in front of her. Heaven's own will is arranging her a very large fall, they decide, and it will do her good. The Rogue Alliance rules the southern seas of the Dark World. Its 5 elders each administer one direction of those seas, east and south and west and north and center. And the 5th elder holds the southern area. The elite I dealt with was one of hers. Where there are people, there are quarrels. And the Elder Council has never been a single block, so the other 4 are enjoying her misfortune thoroughly. In her own hall, she tells Seol to notify the 3 executors and to come along on a southern inspection tour, and the attendant answers with a respectful miss. I have no idea that annexing one small black island has kicked over the Rogue Alliance's hornet's nest. There is still time before the gathering, so I put my energy back into daily training. Ever since I learned that the Dark World affinity from a black tower feeds straight into my cultivation, monotonous training has become close to a passion. Any free hour goes into it, as long as my stamina and my body can take the load. My rate of improvement is still fast and has not stagnated. Even so, I do not train endlessly just because the numbers climb. I keep my own rhythm, 1 hour a day inside the virtual training force field. half in the morning and half in the afternoon. Many experiments taught me that this is the most efficient shape the day can take. After another round, I force myself upright and walk out. A sentry ant hands me a towel and I wipe the sweat off. Looking down at that hard, clean-cut build, I get unexpectedly sentimental about it. Back on Blue Star, assembling a body like this would have cost enormous time and money. Unless it was your actual profession, only rich people could afford either. A few months in the dark world, and I own a physique that would take a natural bodybuilding title without breaking a sweat. On Blue Star, ordinary people run themselves ragged earning a living and carry bodies permanently one step below healthy. I was one of them. Coming here changed everything, because the rules changed and survival pressure kept shoving me forward whether I wanted to move or not. I lost a stable life and gained the power to decide my own fate. Whether that trade counts as good or bad is genuinely hard to say. While I turn that over, something shifts in my state of mind. My sea of consciousness, congested for a while under the accumulation of spiritual power, suddenly clears. The feeling is wonderful, bright and light and open. I let out a long breath of turbid air and check myself over. There is no obvious change in my strength. What has changed is the spiritual power stored in there, and it has dropped by half at the very least. That gives me a proper fright. It took months to pile up, and if it really evaporated, months of work went with it. Worse, I have already provoked the God King, an expert in every application of spiritual power. If my reserves fall too far behind his, he could take me apart at his leisure. So I do not panic, I think it through instead. Exactly half of what I held is gone, and yet nothing feels weaker. If anything, the power in there feels denser, more condensed, distinctly improved. Condensed. My spiritual power fills the sea of consciousness as a gas, packed into the point of congestion. By ordinary physical behavior, a gas crowded into a fixed volume under constant compression becomes a liquid. There is no obvious reason spiritual power should be exempt. My eyes light up and I go back in at once. Wisps of grayish-white gas drift through the sea like lazy clouds, and that gas is the spiritual power itself. This time I ignore it and push my consciousness into the space beneath the sea. I search a while and find nothing but emptiness, and I start to wonder whether I talked myself into a fantasy. Then a faint glimmer down there catches at me, and I throw my consciousness straight onto the light. It is a small pool of silvery white liquid, so little it looks like water spilled from a tipped cup. The moment I touch it, the truth comes through. Pure, extraordinarily pure, of an order the gas has never come close to. This is spiritual power liquid, formed by compressing the gas past its limit, and that one shallow pool is worth every wisp still floating above it. Half my reserve, squeezed down, comes out to that. It is honestly hard to believe. What I do not feel is disappointment. The total has not changed, only the state it is stored in, and the purity has climbed more than tenfold. There is a second gain behind the first. My sea of consciousness was congested precisely because gas filled it, and that congestion had been slowing my growth. Now that I can compress gas into liquid, everything that once filled the entire sea would fit into two small pools. My capacity is multiplied by 1,000 times, or 10,000, and I am not sure the number matters. Congestion will never bottle me up again, and my spiritual power will only grow faster from here. That satisfies me deeply. Spiritual power is not merely fuel for mental attack and defense. The purer it becomes, the clearer the sea of consciousness runs, and the higher one's understanding of the power realm climbs, which accelerates advancement enormously. Stack that on the dark world affinity the Black Tower gave me, and the arithmetic changes shape. A legendary rank cultivator would normally need several years to gain a single small realm. With both working for me, a few months might put me at legendary mid-tier. The excitement takes a while to settle. Realm is no longer the thing that will bottleneck me, and every new Black Tower raises my affinity and makes the process faster still. One problem solved leaves one standing. Solve resources, and the road ahead of me is clear the entire way. Resources have always been the hard part. I enjoy the overwhelming force of an endless ant army grinding my enemies into paste, and I pay for that enjoyment in full. It is not only that cultivating ants swallows staggering quantities of material. As an ability user bound to the ants by a species contract, my physical attribute stats and my comprehension of power are tied straight into them. If my realm is not high enough, the ants cannot improve if the ants are too weak. I cannot comprehend the way into a higher realm. We climb together or neither of us climbs. That is why I always push every queen ant to the highest realm available to her, then set her breeding ants continuously, while I prepare my own advance. I worked out early that my comprehension of the ant intent runs fastest only when all my queen ants stand level with me at the present ceiling. At the same realm we communicate, sense each other and understand each other properly. Let the gap grow too wide and effective comprehension stops happening entirely, which means breaking through a realm costs me 10 times what it costs anybody else. I have 9 queen ants, and not one of them needs less to break through than I do. I have made my peace with that. The more you spend, the more you get back, and this is an investment rather than a cost. With this many ants, my consumption has ballooned, and so has my income, so it comes out a profit from any angle. Other people would envy me the problem before they got close to having it. If I run short, I will go earn more. 3 hours remain before the time I set with Baekhyun. I have just finished training and broken through on top of it, so my body is drained and hollow. That makes recovery the obvious use of the gap. I take out a pile of expensive supplements and drop into an efficient recovery state. While I recover, in the eastern region of the Dark World, the United Alliance closes out its semi-monthly small council meeting. The counselors adjourn and end their communications, and a handful who know each other well open a private channel to pick over what happened. Several are golden-haired and several graying, all carrying the features of Westerners from Blue Star. Tom opens with delight, asking whether the others saw Baekjin's expression, swearing it was the face of a man biting into rotten apple pie. Marcus tells him to drop the translation accent, since the Dark World translates in real time and the performance fools nobody. Tom says he is too strict, and that he was only reminiscing about the time they lost on Blue Star. Marcus cuts that off. Reminiscing makes a man look weak, he says, and weakness hands an enemy an opening, so they will talk business instead. The Baek family and the families around it belong to the Eastern lineage, Marcus says, and inside the United Alliance they hold real strength and influence. This time his group conspired quietly and voted down the Eastern proposal to call in foreign aid, which counts as an opening. He wants it used to cut the Eastern faction down as far as it will go, and sees actual control of the Alliance. Tom agrees happily, then calls Baekjin a senile old fool for proposing to hire an outside squad to conquer a different world. He finds it comical. The United Alliance controls the whole Eastern Sea region of the Dark World, and the day it needs a disorganized wild squad is a day nobody will live to see. Even without a private arrangement, he says, no counselor would have swallowed such an absurd proposal, so the conspirators were only going with the flow. The cold set of Marcus's face loosens and he shakes his head, close to smiling. He warns Tom not to underestimate the old man. On Blue Star, their family crossed Baekjin in business many times, and never once came out ahead, because he is an old fox. Now everyone has arrived in the Dark World, and everyone has been handed real power. Marcus asks whether Tom does not feel it himself, body and spirit far stronger than Blue Star ever allowed. Tom says he does, that he has never felt this good. On Blue Star he was a playboy with a soft body and nothing much underneath it. Here he has recovered his vigor and turned strong, and in a certain sense, the place is heaven. He raises his eyebrows and gives Marcus a look. Marcus drops his voice. Tom just said it himself, that arriving in the Dark World makes a whole person strong. Then he asks whether the same is not true of Baekjin, and answers his own question. For old men like that, the Dark World is not an adventure, but a second world handing them an entirely new life. Tom's flippancy drains out of him, and he stalls, unable to finish the sentence about the old man. Marcus says Baekjin would absolutely not make a foolish mistake. He did not float this proposal to give them something amusing to chew over at afternoon tea, which means the squad is not simple. He tells Tom to mobilize everything they have, themselves and the counselors close to them, and to dig up every scrap of information on it. He has a premonition there is a surprise waiting inside. Tom says he will start immediately. I know nothing about the undercurrents pulling at the United Alliance. Knowing would not change anything, because my thinking is simple these days. Do my own work well, coordinate cleanly with my handful of teammates, and very little is left to worry about. A small team lacks the reach a large organization throws around. It also lacks the endless internal knife fights which suits me exactly. The 3 hours evaporate. My manual chimes a run of soft tones and my eyes open where I sit cross-legged on the bed. The hour has finally come around, so we begin. I tap the manual once, and my figure vanishes from the room. The mutual aid contract puts me down beside Baekhyun on Dark Island, where 5 people already wait. Cheong-ha is one of them. The other 4 are strangers in masks carved into a goat, a black bear, an azure wolf, and a white fox. And by build and clothing, they are 3 men and 1 woman. I am not late. In fact, I have beaten 09 and Will here. These 4 have to be the sponsors funding this commission. The smile that gets away from me stays hidden behind the Vortex mask. What I am thinking of is a game people used to run on Blue Star, where paying customers hire an escort team to drag them through the hard parts. Standing here in a loose line, we look exactly like the hired help. The tall, slender young man in white behind the goat mask greets me first. He guesses I am another member of Baekhyun's team and remarks that he did not expect the Eastern region to hide a figure like me. Even a force as powerful as the United Alliance holds no information on me at all, he says, and asks how he should address me. We have never told anyone the mutual aid contract lets us teleport to each other. So my arrival on a dark island in the Eastern region has him assuming my black island sits here too. It does not, and however strong the United Alliance may be, they will not find it. At the time, I do not realize that is the source of his surprise. I tell him my name is Jang Hyun and that I came at Baekhyun's request. For the duration of the commission, I add, they should leave the full responsibility of conquering the different world to my team. That lands among the 4 sponsors like a stone in still water. They had assumed the 4 of them would fight alongside us, cooperating fully, breaking the hard parts together. From what I just said, it sounds as though they will not be required to lift a finger. The burly man behind the black bear mask, built like an iron tower, snorts and asks whether I mean they should simply tag along. Their family sent these 4 to accumulate different world clearances in preparation for challenging a black tower. They were chosen as direct bloodline descendants and core members, and because their strength is top tier even inside their own families. This operation burned 17 orange-level world beacons, agonizingly precious at this stage and pulled from several families. Nobody pays a price like that to see pure connections at the table. All 4 have been proud since childhood, and what I said reads to them as a flat dismissal of their combat strength. Only the black bear says it aloud, though I can feel the displeasure coming off the other 3. The provocation catches me off balance at first, since Baekhyun settled these details with their families in advance. Then it clicks. Their families are the ones interfering, sending 4 proud heirs and half-briefed on purpose. There are 2 reasons for that. They want our true strength tested through friction, and if we fall short, the cooperation ends there. If we exceed expectations, it becomes a fine chance to discipline these young masters and ladies and sand down some of that pride. The old men of Baekhyun's major families are cunning creatures. Apparently we are being hired as psychological counselors as well, which was never in the agreement and is going to cost them extra. So I shake my head with a smile and tell him I am not looking down on anyone. The commission simply reads this way, and if they wish to fight they are welcome to. I add that if their unauthorized actions create safety problems, we will not be responsible for the results. He snorts that we will see who is faster, then turns and walks off to wait for the entry. I pay the provocation no mind. An adult does not lose his temper at a mischievous 3-year-old. The only woman among them wears a white close-fitting combat suit and the white fox mask. She apologizes on his behalf, saying Black Bear has a straightforward temper and meant no disrespect. This burly man's name is certainly not Black Bear. Calling him that means he would rather not hand over his real identity, which is insincere enough that I should have known better than to give mine. I tell her it is fine, Miss White Fox, and that strangers can be forgiven such things. She shakes her head and says her name is Baekhwa, and that I should just use it. Baekhwa, surname Baek, so she is a relation of Baekhyun's after all. I look her over out of curiosity and agree to call her Miss Baek. While we talk, 2 teleportation arrays flash nearby in quick succession, and Will and 09 arrive. Baekhyun calls everyone over from beside the guiding stele. With all of us present, and time short against a heavy task, he says, we should depart at once. Nobody argues. He produces an orange-level world beacon, selects the 8 of us, and every one of us accepts. Orange light flares, and we vanish from the space of Dark Island together. Then comes the familiar spatial turbulence and the familiar orange barrier. What is different is the head count. 9 of us, the largest group we have ever taken into a different world. The barrier feels cramped. I end up jammed into a corner against Baekhwa and Cheongha. Movement is impossible inside the turbulence, so we endure it in silence. After an unmeasurable stretch of traversed space, as the orange light dims, a blue planet very much like Blue Star swings into view. Joy goes through me at the sight. The aura coming off it is precisely what an orange-level world should carry, and I have conquered enough of them to be sure. The barrier accelerates the instant the planet appears, and drives straight for it. We punch through the atmosphere and drop into the world's domain. Joe Kang is laughing before he has recovered his footing, delighted to be out of that cramped barrier. He tells me an orange-level world beacon is not an easy thing to freeload on. These beacons are his family's long accumulation, and making room for me kept several family elites out of the operation. Then he proposes a competition, and says that if my strength is not up to standard, this commission ends right here. He held it in for the whole crossing, and the pressure needed somewhere to go. Baekhyun snaps back at once for the use of my bear name, telling the blind bear to address me as his elder brother. He was working at the guiding stele on Dark Island and missed the earlier exchange. Joe Kang tells him not to be arrogant either. Baekhyun was unlearned on Blue Star, he says. The old men are senile for accepting his ridiculous commission, and this time he will prove which of them is stronger. Watching Baekhyun square up to a strong man who is evidently missing a screw, I cut in and tell him to let it go, since our team is heading east. Joe Kang snorts that they will take the west, sucks in a deep breath and blows it out so hard that his body launches westward like a cannonball. He is out of sight in a blink. The remaining 3 watch the hostility with visible helplessness. The goat-masked youth rubs his forehead and observes that things always end this way whenever Joe Kang is present. Then he excuses them, summons an antique-style pleasure boat, and flies off after him. Baekhwa sighs and tells us plainly that her family does not really trust our strength. that they want the four of them to test us, and that she can only follow orders. Baekhyun summons his magic carpet, scoops the rest of us aboard and grumbles the whole time. The old man talked so sweetly to him and pulled this stunt anyway. Can those old bones not sit still for one commission? He asks whether that is not simple distrust aimed straight at him. Baekhyun says helplessly that it was not Grandpa's idea, and that Grandpa still owes the other three family heads an explanation. I nod, because that I understand, and say so. Her family put up an enormous number of beacons and we have contributed nothing yet, so doubt is normal. Since it stands like that, we will take Joe Kang up on his competition. Baekhyun lifts the white fox mask away, revealing a beautiful, cold face. She thanks me for understanding, wishes all of us smooth sailing, and says they will go on ahead. I wish them a smooth journey and tell her to contact us promptly if they need assistance. Then she and the silent azure wolf-masked youth head west after the others. Once they are well away, Baekhyun lets it out. Joe Kang is a musclehead with a chip welded to his shoulder. He already told the old man that conquering different worlds should be left to us, so all this meddling only invites trouble. They will get honest fast once this world's monsters beat them black and blue. I shake my head, smiling, and tell him nothing here is what it looks like on the surface. Then ask Chungha whether I am wrong. She has been sitting quietly in a corner of the carpet, and she nods and says that unless she is mistaken, this is about world resources. Baekhyun is stunned for a beat, then gets there himself and complains that they are guarding against us. When we settled the commission, ownership of the world's resources never got discussed in any depth. If the arrangement runs as written, my team is fully responsible for combat while the family members ride along gathering experience. The bulk of the resources would end up with us. Joe Kang's group means to use their own kills to argue for a larger share. That is understandable enough, and I say so. This is an orange-level world, and 17 beacons went into reaching it. So even for an entire family faction, these resources are an enormous sum. Unfortunately for them, we are badly short ourselves, and we will not be letting go either. We want the conquest count and we want the resources. So it is time to prove what our escort squad is worth. Baekhyun cheers, tells everyone to buckle up, and pours energy into the carpet until it flashes gold and runs at full power, carrying us east. We come down on a continent and everyone disembarks. I release the entire ant army and push sentry ants out in every direction to scout, while the others ready themselves for battle. The intelligence comes back quickly and my brows pull together. The intelligent species of this world walks upright on two legs and carries green patterned shells on its back, unmistakably turtle-like. That much is fine. What troubles me is that they are amphibious, because their tracks cover the land while the ocean may well be their primary home. The whole orange-level world is an azure planet built along Blue Star's lines. It carries a respectable amount of land, and what it has in genuine abundance is water, exactly the combination that produces an amphibious species. Purely terrestrial intelligent creatures would have been no trouble, since the five of us have stripped a great many such worlds efficiently. Amphibians are another matter, and my frown does not go away. Among all my ants, only the blue water ants that Vast Waves cultivates are genuinely built for fighting in water. I added them after our first Different World campaign exposed how badly we lacked aquatic capability, so I did prepare. The problem is that Vast Waves has not been with me long enough. Since she reached legendary rank, I have managed only 30 legendary rank blue water ants. That is enough for small engagements and thin for large-scale naval warfare, and it means no crushing these creatures the way we crush land creatures. Ordinarily, a slower pace would cost nothing. Having just accepted a bet from Joe Kang, being outrun would be humiliating. Baekhyun slaps his thigh and swears. He has no clear idea what the other three are good at, but Baekhyun is his cousin, and he knows her thoroughly, and she specializes in water-based abilities. Worse, her combat power is second only to his own inside the family and not far behind it. If they pull ahead, that blind bastard Joe Kang will become insufferable past anything he can imagine. He scratches at his head and his ears, already picturing the mocking face waiting for him. Cheongha speaks then, and her expression is grave. She used Little Green to probe this world's energy intensity and found it considerably higher than any orange-level world we have campaigned in. She explains it the way cultivators would. A single legendary rank realm divides into lower, middle, and upper tiers, and worlds do the same. If the orange-level worlds we cleared before were lower tier, this one's aura intensity has already reached the upper tier. A little further and it would advance into a yellow-level world. Misfortunes do not arrive one at a time. We are weak at aquatic combat, the world is dominated by water, and now the world itself is unusually strong. Little Green is a world tree of extraordinarily high life level, and what it senses is never wrong, so there is no comfortable way to doubt the reading. My frown deepens while I work through why. Water is the source of life, so vast oceans give a world a real advantage in nurturing it. This one lacks the sharp specialization of a single element world, and its variety of elements raises the strength of its creatures instead. Worlds showing large blue oceans deserve more caution from us in future. Baekhyun sighs that there is no way around it this time, and that standing here waiting solves nothing. Everyone is tense. I let out a breath, feel my brow smooth, and tell them not to rush. Orange-level worlds have one defining characteristic, which is that they cultivate intelligent creatures, and the quantity and quality of those creatures govern the world's advancement. In every previous campaign, killing enough high-level intelligent creatures provoked the world will into acting. Since this world already sits at the upper tier with one step left to yellow, its tolerance is very likely lower than in ordinary orange-level worlds. Delight breaks across every face. Baekhyun slaps his thigh again and says a world this close to leveling up cannot sit still while we tear it apart. There is no need to chase turtle bastards through the ocean. We hit them hard on land, drag the world will out, and everything afterward becomes simple. I tell them the land is enormous, and there is no time to waste, so everyone should split up and move fast. Nobody wants to be outperformed by the clients on our first mission. Baekhyun laughs and says clients should lie down quietly and stop making work for us. Each of us picks a direction and goes, all aiming to wreck enough of this world to drag its will into the open. My group and Baekhyun split the planet along an east-west line, mine east and theirs west. The land is extensive in both directions, so even with the 5 of us dispersing there is room enough to campaign without crowding. Baekhyun rides his magic carpet south. About 10 minutes of excited high-speed flying brings him over a turtle people tribe well over 1,000 strong, and the aura detection tool in his hand starts pulsing red. That tool reads auras up to legendary rank, and red is the color it shows for one. 10 minutes in, and he has already found one. It strikes him hard, exactly as Chonha warned, that this world's strength is genuinely high. The group has campaigned in 6 or 7 orange-level different worlds, and found legendary rank creatures before, but never at this density. An entire continent might hold 1 or 2. Here they are thick on the ground. This is what a world on the verge of yellow level looks like, he thinks, and decides to test their caliber. Jang Hyun and the others have already started, and he has no intention of falling behind. He looks down at the turtle people with rising excitement. Some are packing away a catch, others bask lazily in the sun, and the whole scene is peaceful. A few have spotted him and craned their necks to watch. With a legendary rank guardian among them though, they do not take a man in the sky seriously, and they go back to work. Turtle people are amphibious, he reasons, superb in water and formidable on land. What they cannot possibly do is fly. He happens to excel at aerial combat, so from up here he can wipe them out at leisure, and apart from that freak Jang Hyun, he might post the team's highest kill efficiency. Smiling to himself, he unfolds a golden light formation behind his back. Hundreds of golden beams gather along it and level themselves at the tribe like drawn swords. The turtle people feel the pressure descend and their peace evaporates. They stretch their necks up at him, and the sound they make is a low, furious, drawn-out moan. A turtle head no more than 50 centimeters long can extend its neck to nearly 5 meters, snake-like and deeply unpleasant to watch. Stretching that far gave him a start, he admits, though he wants to know what good it does them. The neck is not reaching the sky to bite him. He smiles slightly and sends the beams down like arrows. The impacts hammer the ground with the sound of a bombing run, and smoke and dust bury the sight so thoroughly that nothing can be seen. Feeling that concussion roll back up at him, Baekhyun gets excited. From a high vantage point, these turtle people can do nothing but stick their backsides up and take it, and the fastest kill of the day is surely his. Then, before the dust clears, something inside it starts moving fast enough to crack the air. He feels the wrongness instantly and hauls the carpet sideways. The moment he moves, streaks of water lance up through the space he just left, punch clean through it, and vanish into the sky. A cold sweat breaks over him. Taking those undefended would have opened him up badly, and the power behind them is comparable to a large caliber firearm. He looks down again into clearing air, and his pupils shrink. Below him, the turtle people stand with necks extended, and water running around their mouths. So those columns plainly came out of them. What actually troubles him is not the counterattack, but the state of the tribe. Those hundreds of beams looked casual, and thrown by a legendary rank cultivator, each carried legendary rank energy, sharpened besides. By any sane accounting, creatures of the same rank should have paid dearly to endure that. The tribe below numbers over 1,000. The barrage collapsed some of their constructed cave facilities and killed perhaps 20 of the lower ranked ones, whose shells cracked open. The overwhelming majority simply pulled heads and limbs inside their shells, took superficial damage, and were never in danger at all. The legendary level turtle person, 3.5 meters tall, does not have a scratch on its back shell. Terrifying as their offense is, their defense is worse. He curses himself because turtles carry enormous shells and heavy defense follows from that. On top of the armor, they field water guns as anti-air fire, which makes this genuinely troublesome. He wanted a spectacular entrance and is now looking at the prospect of fumbling it. The turtle people do not grant him time to sulk. Another volley comes up, and with no room left to think, he drops into a bitter fight. The others fare no better at the same moment, each having found a tribe with a legendary level guardian. 09 works her mecha's long-range guns and cannons, and a large share of that high-intensity fire skids off the curved shells and gets redirected away. The damage is halved and the lethality left thin, since the shells seem to suppress energy attacks specifically. With no better option, she brings the mecha down, draws the alloy greatsword off its back, and takes the turtle people at close quarters. Metal rings on shell across the whole field. Will hits the same wall and handles it differently, since he is a close combat specialist who never leaned on energy attacks. He wades in with a bloodthirsty battle axe in each hand. The turtle people stretch their necks at him, firing water guns or opening enormous toothed mouths and striking like snakes. His combat perception is keen enough that a water gun charging at close range cannot hide its fluctuation, and he slips every one. The long necks delight him. He swings through them like a man chopping vegetables, until turtle heads trailing 5 meters of neck drop all around him. The severed heads keep their vitality afterward. They wriggle and squirm across the ground exactly like snakes, still trying to reach him and bite. Will frowns without a trace of fear, finding the whole business tedious rather than frightening. If they refuse to die like that, he decides he will chop them into paste. He charges back into the mass of them with both axes swinging, and blood goes everywhere. Set against all of that, I have the easiest afternoon of anyone. With this many types of ants, I have never had to be picky about opponents, because whatever style an enemy is built around, some part of my swarm is already the answer to it. My ants cover land, sea, and air, and they include specialists in tunnel warfare on top of that. A few days of accumulation has brought the ant army to 1,200. That is not an impressive number until you remember every one of them is a legendary rank existence. Gathered together, they are a torrent that grinds whatever it touches into nothing. They pour into a tribe with its own legendary level guardian. The turtle people hear the commotion and stretch their necks alertly toward the source, and what they see is ants of every size arriving under enormous auras. Those extended necks are harvested on the spot by the great sickle mandibles of the black scythe hunting ants. The heads that hit the ground try to make trouble again. Sentry ants working in coordination carve them into hundreds of pieces with dagger-like front claws, until nothing twitches. The water guns that do get fired break against lightning shields thrown up by the plasma ants. The high voltage runs straight back down the water into the bodies that launched it, leaving turtle people shaking and paralyzed where they stand. Their legendary level guardian sees the battle going badly and throws itself in to salvage what it can. One creature, however strong, cannot turn a tide like that. Several black scythe hunting ants drag it down, sickles sweep across it, and its head and neck come off and are shredded. 10 minutes after we arrived, a tribe of over 1,000 with a legendary level guardian no longer exists. My teammates are still working hard. Setting my own arithmetic aside, the fastest killer on this team is the one nobody looks at twice, which is Chung-ha. Turtle people are hard and tough, and the plant defensive she specializes in is soft past all measure, so hardness loses to softness. Thorny vines that spread as fast as they grow, and towering trees that walk wherever they like, are pure nightmare for creatures like these. The vines wrap them tight and no struggling breaks the hold. Pulling limbs and head inside the shell accomplishes nothing either, because the vines are everywhere, and a sealed turtle is simply meat on a chopping block. The water-type attacks they are so proud of do worse than fail against her plant army. Absorbed, the water becomes moisture, and her plants grow more wildly than before. If my ants are a pure crush of numbers, Xianghai is a hard counter drawn specifically against this species. Even at a strength disadvantage, a tribute restraint would let her beat things stronger than herself. Her realm and strength are not the slightest bit inferior to theirs, which turns every engagement into a one-sided demolition. With 2 weapons of mass destruction working the field, and Baekhyun, Will, and 09 grinding steadily behind us, the eastern region of this different world falls into disorder. The world will begin to take notice. Turtle people living in the ocean start flocking toward the continent, and there are more of them out there than on land, and they are stronger. We have only just started and our kill count is limited, so we have not yet forced the world will to intervene directly. Given time, it will certainly reach the point where it cannot hold back. In the western region, Zhou Kang and Baekhua and their 2 companions are fighting hard as well. Unlike my group, who scattered to separate directions, those 4 have stayed together, and they are raiding a tribe of 1,000 turtle people. As the strongest talents several major families could produce, they are not to be underestimated. Every one of them stands at legendary rank. Family backing has equipped them with top-grade skills and props. Their combat awareness is outstanding, and the 4 cooperate with real understanding. Baekhua leads this battle as an ability user specialized in the water element. Every water gun the turtle people release is swallowed by a vortex-shaped mirror of flowing water she summons, and not one lands any damage. It is not only the shots aimed at her. Shots aimed at the other 3 are caught the instant they are fired, dragged off course and pulled into her water mirror. In a single stroke, their primary weapon is worthless. Joe King behind his black bear mask, the goat-masked youth and the azure wolf-masked youth bring out their own methods at a rate nobody would sneer at. Working as a unit, the four are considerably faster than Baekhyun, Will, or 09 fighting alone. The comparison stops being kind after that. Their four together cannot match any two of Baekhyun, Will, and 09. Against Chung-ha, far more exaggerated, they are nowhere close. Against me, the gap stops being a gap. Set the killing efficiency of Baekhyun, Will, and 09 at 1 unit each, and Baekwa's group of 4 comes out around 1.5. Chung-ha reaches 3, twice what those 4 manage between them. My ant army, measured the same way, reaches a terrifying 30, 10 times Chung-ha, 20 times the 4 of them. It is less a lead than a cliff. None of them knows any of this yet. They are killing turtle people in smooth coordination and are thoroughly satisfied with their own efficiency. Joe Kang swings his huge spiked club, shatters the shell of the diamond-ranked turtle person, and stands there hauling in air. Thinking of Baekhyun and me puts the smile back on his face. That boy Baekhyun is arrogant. He decides too used to running wild outside and dragging in a team from who knows where. As for Jang Hyun, a casual player who believes he is genuinely strong, the man wanted to shoulder the whole world alone and let everyone else collect the win. The monsters here are far above the usual orange level standard, and even Joe Kang spends real effort on one diamond-ranked shell. Those people must be struggling badly. Once his group has drawn out the world will, he will see whether they are still so arrogant. The others are unimpressed by that magnificently smug declaration. They are elites of major families who have excelled since childhood and carry heavy influence behind them, and their pride is enormous. Toward Baekhyun and Cheongha, who share their background, they hold nothing stronger than disdain for the choices those two made. Toward people like me, who came from nothing, contempt is the natural order. They carried those views on Blue Star, and the Dark World sharpened them instead of softening them. Superiority is bred into their blood and bone, and people like me are not even the same species. The goat-masked youth and the silent azure wolf-masked youth merely decline to say it as directly, and they harbor the thought all the same. What none of them knows is that Hyo Singyol of the Hyo family held precisely the same views. I killed him a long time ago, and by now the grass on his grave must stand 3 feet high. Only Baekwa feels anything resembling a warning. She has been diligent and earnest since childhood, took an elite family education, and followed the family training path to reach where she stands. She always looked down on her cousin Baekhyun, unreliable since the two of them were children. The fact remains that he has already conquered a black tower, and that she has not yet met the conditions to attempt one. A conquered black tower does not change in appearance afterward, and any challenger must first reach a minimum number of different world conquests. So although Baekhyun took a black tower in the eastern region, nobody outside has discovered it. The core members of his family are another matter, and the intelligence is no secret to them. Baekhyun knows, which is exactly why she is so vigilant toward the squad her cousin holds in such high regard, and toward me above all of them. She knows Baekhyun well. Unreliable as he looks, he is proud underneath it, and the highly talented elites of the major families have never impressed him. Yet every time he speaks of me, he speaks with reverence, and that excitement and admiration cannot be faked. The more she turns it over, the more ominous the feeling grows, and she frowns and warns Joe Kang to be careful, and to move faster. Joe Kang laughs and asks whether she seriously believes that Ragtag Team can compare to them, and whether she is not far too cautious. Then he relents and agrees to pick up the pace so the others can see the gap. Looking at how cool and serious she is, he rubs the back of his head in embarrassment, swings his giant mace and goes back to work. He shatters the shell of a diamond-ranked turtle person and fishes a walnut-sized blue bead out of the ruined remains, presenting it to her as though it were treasure. He tells her every creature in this world carries one of these water elemental beads. The energy in them is very pure and perfect for her cultivation, he says, and she should watch how many he collects for her. Baekwa says nothing at all. The goat-masked youth and the azure wolf-masked youth have trouble keeping their faces straight, because his feelings for her are obvious and his clumsy, oblivious way of pursuing her is hopeless. Their efficiency is not especially high, but they advance steadily, and in a little over 3 hours they can wipe out a tribe of 1,000 turtle people led by a legendary-level turtle person. After each tribe, they need roughly an hour of rest and recuperation. Baekhyun, Will, and 09 combined average an hour and a half for the same tribe, and Chung-ha, swifter still, does it alone in an hour and a half. I am more exaggerated than any of them. I take a tribe with a legendary-level guardian in 10 minutes, suffer almost no losses, and need no extra rest, which works out to 6 legendary-level turtle people killed in a single hour by myself. A little over 3 hours in this world. And between us, we have killed 23 legendary-level turtle people. For an orange-level world, legendary rank creatures are the absolute peak of existence. This different world sits one step from breaking through to yellow level, so its count of them far exceeds what a typical orange level world holds. Every one of them remains a vital foundational part of what keeps the place standing. With them being slaughtered this wantonly, the world will of this world finally cannot hold back any longer. In the western waters of this world, 10,000 meters down, in a darkness absolute enough to deserve no other name, a pair of giant orange-yellow spheres suddenly lights up, each one 10 meters across. At the center of each sits a red sphere a full meter in diameter, spinning rapidly, looking exactly like a pupil set in an eye. The next second, the orange-yellow spheres vanish and then flash back, the way eyes blink. They are not spheres at all. They are eyes, 10 meters across apiece, and whatever creature carries a pair that size must be beyond measuring. A long, melodious, dull call rings out and sets the seawater rippling 10,000 meters down. The next second, the water churns violently, and an extremely massive, pitch-black creature whose specific form is impossible to discern begins swimming toward the surface. That pair of incredibly huge eyes, bright as the lamps on a lighthouse, stares fixedly at one region above it, and that region is exactly where Zhou Kang and his three companions are. The thing rising out of that dark is the strongest creature this world holds. It is the proxy creature of this orange-level world, carrying authority on behalf of the world will. It is colossal and pitched at an energy level so high that every movement it makes burns a fortune. To spare the world's own resources, it normally sleeps 10,000 meters down on the ocean floor. It is woken now because the world will has finally given it an order. The order is simple, which is to kill every invader. Zhang Hyun's group, or Zhou Kang's group, makes no difference to the instruction. Its bed lies in the Western Ocean, and the nearest invaders are the four standing on the Western continent. Proximity settles the question, and Zhou Kang's team goes first. It starts moving at a speed that has no business belonging to a body that size. Zhou Kang and his three companions have no idea they have successfully disturbed the world will. They have no idea that something terrible is already coming for them. Their mood is excellent. 20 minutes ago, they wiped out an entire turtle people tribe down to the last member, including its legendary rank leader. They rested on the spot for over 20 minutes. That has brought them back to something close to peak condition. Zhou Kang springs up off the ground, brushes the dust off his clothes, and asks whether everyone has recovered enough to keep moving. He complains that the monsters here are offensive and defensive at once, which makes them genuinely troublesome. Even a team as strong as theirs, he says, finds a small tribe with a legendary level guardian difficult. Baekhyun's group, he decides out loud, must be having a far worse time of it. The goat-masked youth stands and agrees that nobody can count on that team. They need to move quickly, he says, and force the world will out, so the operation can end. Entering the Black Tower counts only the number of different worlds a person has conquered, and never looks at how strong those worlds were. This world runs high, and if they let it drag them out for too long, they will fall a long way behind. Baekwa nods and does the arithmetic aloud. Setting the other team aside entirely, their own team needs about 4 hours to destroy a tribe with a legendary level guardian. Subtracting rest, that comes to 5 legendary level turtle people a day. She adds the other half of the calculation. An orange level world will tolerate roughly 10 legendary rank deaths before it acts. This world is clearly stronger, with far more legendary rank creatures in it, so its tolerance will run higher too. Her estimate is 20 at the minimum and 30 at the outside before the world will cannot help itself and sends out its proxy creature. Zhou Kang works that into 5 or 6 days on their own strength. Useless as the other team is, he grants, they do have some skills and might compress the schedule by a day or two. 3 days at the earliest then, and 5 at the latest. He laughs and says that pace is not too slow, and tells everyone to push a little harder. They get to their feet and look ahead. While they rested, they had detection tools out, and most of the ground in front of them is already scouted. 10 kilometers on there is another tribe with a legendary level guardian, a minute or two away at their speed. Then, just as they are about to move, the earth slams once, and keeps slamming. Zhou Kang looks down at the ground in confusion, and wonders whether it is an earthquake. This world has oceans and land, so an earthquake is nothing strange in itself. To men who have reached the legendary rank, it amounts to a ripple rather than a disaster. What bothers him is the timing, which arrives neither earlier nor later than the moment they stand up. The shaking does not settle, it builds. Baekwa frowns and says something is wrong. The sound and the sensation are both growing stronger, as though whatever makes them is coming toward them. The youth in the azure wolf mask has not said a word all day. He sniffs twice and says gravely that he smells the aura of a powerhouse. Their faces change at once, and they ask Lee Mook whether he means an enemy is approaching. Lee Mook is extremely sensitive to biological auras. The legendary level turtle people they slaughtered a short while ago drew no reaction out of him at all. Now, with nothing at all in sight, he has spoken up to warn them. That alone tells them how far past those creatures this one must be. The booming keeps rolling in, and a bad premonition settles over the group. Joe Kang's expression goes stiff, and he asks whether Lee Mook means that all this commotion belongs to that creature. Then he tells him not to say it. A thing that shakes a continent before it even appears is not something he wants to picture. Lee Mook does not speak again, he only nods, which confirms it. Bei Kwa frowns, and a stream of water gathers under her feet and carries her rapidly upward. Above the tree line, she finds the source at once. It is a black-brown mountain several hundred meters high, and it is coming at them fast. It looks slow only because size lies about speed. Every step it takes hammers that earthquake through the ground. Her voice goes grave as she says it is here. Her face is enough to drop the hearts of the other three. They use their own methods to rise and hang in the air beside her. Then they see the dark brown hill moving and are stunned where they float. They ask each other what in the world that is, and whether a mountain has learned to walk. Every step of it tramples a swath of trees flat. Judging by the direction and the distance of the fallen timber, the thing crawled up out of the Western Ocean. Half a minute has passed since the first vibration reached them. In that half minute it has covered 20 kilometers, leaving a long lane of crushed forest behind it. A wailing call comes out of the hill, melodious and loud and oppressive enough to set all four hearts pounding like drums. As the call goes out, a thick creature lifts off the ground into the air, snake-like and dragon-like at once. It stares straight at the four of them 30 kilometers away. Their first thought is the serpent dragons out of old Blue Star myth. It has a winding body, several long whiskers, and a brown spiral horn on its head. A dragon paired with a walking mountain is a strange combination. One of them wonders absurdly whether the hill is its home and it is too attached to leave the thing behind. The absurdity lasts about a second. They think about what the intelligent creatures of this world look like, and the answer falls into place. It is not a dragon at all. It is a turtle. The hill is its shell, and the body under that shell runs 500 or 600 meters. The shell has spent an unknown span asleep in the deep. It has collected enough soil and rock over the years to pass for genuine mountain. Until it raised its head, there was nothing there to recognize. Their faces turned ugly, with none of the high spirits of a few minutes ago left in them. Between that exaggerated size and the pressure rolling off it, their fighting spirit drains away fast. One of them says it must be the proxy creature of this world. They knew it would be strong and never imagined this strong. They have all seen legendary upper-tier creatures before, and this aura is far past anything in that category. Someone asks quietly whether the thing has already broken through to the mythical level. Joe King's legs shake under him, and nothing remains of the arrogance he wore an hour ago. The goat-masked youth, normally the cheerful one of the group, cannot manage a smile either, and says no. If it were mythical level, its aura would have changed in kind. This aura is powerful, and far past an ordinary legendary upper-tier creature, and it has not undergone that qualitative change. Part of the impression is simply bulk. Once a creature passes 100 meters, it counts as a giant object. It carries tremendous vitality and stored energy far beyond smaller creatures of its rank. That makes it the most troublesome thing of its grade. This one runs over 500 meters, a supergiant rather than a plain giant, so a heavier aura is normal. On top of that, it may carry a unique bloodline, letting it draw out strength past its realm. Joe Kang's expression turns worse than crying. He grants that the proxy creature would run strong, since the intensity of this world felt high the moment they entered it. What he cannot swallow is the timing. They killed exactly one legendary level turtle person and have not even started on the second. He wants to know why the world will has already spent its proxy creature. He asks who protects a world this jealously and whether the thing intends to play fair at all. Their own estimate put the earliest possible appearance 3 days out. That estimate assumed the other team moved fast enough to pull the schedule forward. 4 hours in this world, one legendary kill, and the proxy creature is standing at their door. Before they can think it through any further, the turtle 30 kilometers off tilts its neck and lifts its head. All four faces change at once. They have killed over 1,000 turtle people today and know that motion in their bones. It is the wind-up for a water gun. This creature is not standing upright the way the turtle people do, and the movement is close enough to read anyway. Someone shouts to dodge and then immediately reverses and shouts to pull their power into a defense instead. The reversal costs them nothing at all, because in about a second there will be nothing left to dodge into. A water column as wide as a river crosses 30 kilometers as though the distance were a rumor. Ordinary turtle people fire small water guns, and legendary level ones fire slightly larger guns, and this thing fires an entire river. A single column they might have avoided even at that speed and that range, since the worst of them stands at legendary rank. 10 kilometers out though, the column bursts apart into a dense sky-covering hail of water guns. They grit their teeth and take it standing. 4 sets of defensive methods come up at once. The impact still lands like a giant hammer to the chest, and an irresistible force flings all 4 of them backwards, spitting blood. Against a thing that size, 4 legendary rank family heirs are only 4 children in very expensive clothes. One strike came within a hair of wiping them out. Zhou Kang screams the names of Baekhyun and Jang Hyun and says the two of them have gotten everyone killed this time. The chain is simple in his head. Baekhyun made grand promises, talked several family patriarchs into signing off, and organized this entire operation. Without that, nobody would be dying on this continent today. The goat-masked youth and Lee Mook are just as badly hurt as he is. They blocked what they could of the water element arrows, but the intensity and the rate of fire were both too high. Blocking one round or several rounds is not the same as blocking all of them. Both of them are covered in blood now and look nothing like the proud young men who walked into this world at dawn. Heir to a great family or nobody in particular, death levels everyone. At the moment they are simply three men about to die. The goat-masked youth coughs and tells Zhou Kang not to blame Baekhyun and the others. Even without that team, they would have come to conquer an orange-level world anyway. He says the only thing worth blaming is their own luck in drawing a world this powerful. A man on the verge of death tends to say what he actually thinks. What he actually thinks is that nobody here was cheated into anything. 3 ropes of water come whipping past, wrap the 3 of them, and haul them east at speed. Baekhyun made those as a legendary rank ability user built entirely around the water element. She carries heavy resistance to water. She took that same sky-covering arrow rain full on and kept her combat ability, losing only the neatness of her combat suit. She is in the best condition of the 4 by a wide margin. That attack was not a casual flick even for the turtle, blanketing that much ground from 30 kilometers away, while keeping enough force to drop 3 legendary rank elites has to cost something. It has stopped where it stands to recover, and that pause is the only reason she gets any room at all. Its enormous orange-yellow eyes track her as she shrinks into the distance, and there is a glint of real intelligence in them. At the speed it moves, catching her again will not take long. It blows out one heavy breath that uproots and snaps the trees for a wide circle around it. Then it sets off after her at full stride. Behind Baekhyun, the pressure comes on with that heavy booming underneath it, like something dragging a scythe along the ground. She grits her teeth and forces more speed out of a body that has none left. 3 passengers cost her both velocity and energy, and she will run dry long before the turtle runs out of patience. Zhou Kang coughs and asks her to put him down, saying he is too heavy and they will all die like this. Jang Hyun would have been genuinely astonished to hear it. This is the arrogant, foul-mouthed heir who looks down on ordinary people. Here he is volunteering to be dropped so the others can live. People are complicated and hold more than one thing at a time. Baekhyun ignores the offer without so much as a glance at him. She keeps pulling potions out of her storage ring to top up her energy. He keeps talking anyway, insisting the other team will be no match for this monster either, and that going to find them is useless. The other 2 fainted some time ago, and only his heavier constitution keeps him conscious enough to narrate. She finally tires of the noise and plugs his mouth with a wad of flowing water. With peace restored, she flies it close to her limit and turns over the thing that has been bothering her. Why would the world will spend its proxy creature the moment her team killed a single legendary rank creature? Either this world will is special in some way she does not understand, or by the time they took their first kill, Baekhyun's team had already killed enough to provoke it. Her own figures said 20 or 30 legendary deaths were needed. If the second answer is the right one, then that team's killing efficiency is 20 or 30 times her team's. Her expression changes, because she cannot make herself accept a gap that size. She tells herself it is impossible, and underneath that she believes it anyway. If the number is real, then that team may actually be able to handle this turtle. Anticipation and relief and disbelief tangle together in her until her speed picks up a notch. The proxy creature comes up out of the western sea and breaks 4 people with a single stroke. In that same stretch, my team and I finish off every legendary level turtle person on land in the eastern region. The 5 of us regroup at the center of it to work out the next move. Baekhyun complains that we have killed every legendary turtle on the land here. So where exactly is the proxy creature? He asks whether we were not told this world was about to upgrade and could not tolerate losing legendary rank creatures. Then he decides the world will of this place is a turtle itself. Patient past all reason. It is no wonder, he says, that the intelligent creatures it raises are turtles too. There is a real problem under the complaining. If the world will refuses to show itself, our only remaining option is to go under the water and hunt the ocean turtle people. For those of us who are bad in water, that is troublesome and dangerous. I frown over it as well, because logically this should not be happening. Even in an ordinary orange-level world, this many legendary rank deaths would have dragged the world will out long ago. That goes double for one that stands a single step from a breakthrough. I start to wonder aloud whether we guessed wrong from the beginning. Maybe the level of a world has nothing to do with the level of its native creatures. Then the ground starts roaring in the west. Everyone looks up in confusion at what sounds like an earthquake arriving from nowhere. I have it a heartbeat later, and I am already flying west, before I finish saying it. The proxy creature did not fail to appear. It appeared a long time ago in the western region, which is exactly where Baekhyun and the others went. I am anxious, and I want to be honest about why. Zhou Kang and his people are arrogant enough to be genuinely irritating. They have never actually obstructed me, so I hold no grudge against them. What matters more is that they are the financial backers of this commission. If something happens to them, the commission fails, and the 17 orange-level world beacons I was promised end with it. It is no secret anymore that monsters in the Dark Island wilderness drop world beacon fragments. The other chief disciples kill far less efficiently than my team does, and there are a great many of them. Farming fragments out there is no longer realistic. That leaves spending resources on draws, and assembling that many complete orange-level beacons would cost an amount I would rather not calculate. Resources have always been the thing I have least of, and I am not throwing them away in a place like this. So from where I sit, it is not Beikwa and 3 others in danger out there. It is my resources and my black tower. That rumbling has to come from something enormous, which tells me the proxy creature is a colossal giant. It also has not stopped, which means it is still chasing something, which means Beikwa is probably still alive. There is time. My gaze sharpens and I push my speed higher. Then Baekhyun slides the magic carpet in beside me and tells me to get on and skip the explanation. A fully powered carpet beats anything I can do alone. I agree. Put the ant army into the spirit nurturing jar and step aboard. The carpet tears out of everyone's sight in a single breath. Speed being the entire point, he brings only me, and Chungha and Will follow behind with 09's mecha. On the western edge of the eastern continent, Beikwa is still dragging Zhou Kang and the other 2 deeper inland. The turtle is right behind her. Her face is white and her lips are cracked. She sways badly enough to look like she will drop out of the sky at any moment. Everything she has left goes into flying, with nothing set aside for defense. She is only still airborne because our team swept the turtle people off this continent so thoroughly. A diamond rank 1 or even a platinum rank 1 could have shot her down with a single water gun. Almost there, she tells herself, just hold on a little longer. Her consciousness is fading and her thinking has narrowed to one instruction, which is east. The turtle comes on step by heavy step, laying down trees with each one. Its enormous eyes stay locked on the tottering figure above it. Her speed keeps bleeding away and the gap closes to about 40 kilometers. It raises its neck, opens that massive mouth, and gathers terrifying water element energy inside. 40 kilometers is the outer edge of the skill's reach. Every previous time she crossed into range, she squeezed out one last scrap of strength and pulled clear. This time she keeps swaying and does not accelerate at all. She has hit her physical limit, and there is no dodging what comes next. The turtle roars, throws its head back, and whips it violently down. A gigantic water pillar leaves its mouth toward the 4 of them 40 kilometers away. 30 kilometers on, the pillar shatters into thousands upon thousands of water arrows. They tear the air hard enough to crack sonic booms behind them. Her consciousness is half gone, and she still hears the sound perfectly. She has heard it enough times today to identify it without looking back. She wants to do it one more time. Her vision simply goes black instead, drowned in exhaustion and weakness, and she decides that this is where she dies. Her eyes dim with a last thread of reluctance toward the world in front of her. Behind her, all 3 of the injured have come around. One thinks she would have escaped clean if she had abandoned them. One thinks the fine situation was ruined in a single morning, and the unfairness of it is unbearable. One thinks that if the other team really is as strong as they claimed, then this unauthorized action was courting death. There is nobody left to blame for it. Regret, or resentment, or reluctance. None of it matters against a skill that erases people. The arrows come down from the sky to the ground and bury all 4 figures completely. They are dense enough to turn an Iron Man into a sieve. 40 kilometers back, the turtle allows itself a flicker of triumph, and about a second later, its pupils shrink instead. Something colossal and earth-colored has appeared right beside the 4 of them out of nothing at all. There was no warning of any kind. Before the water arrows can arrive, it opens a mouth 10 meters wide and swallows all 4 in one gulp. The turtle takes the newcomer for a rescuer at first. Then it watches the prey it chased across a continent go down someone else's throat. For a moment, it is too bewildered to be angry. The anger arrives right behind. Its kill, hunted that long and that close to finished, has been snatched off the table by a stranger. That is outrageous. It rears its head to fire again and finds the earthen giant already gone. Dived clean into the ground, thousands of water arrows plow the empty soil until the whole area looks like it has been through a harvester. They hit nothing at all. It roars and swings its head east. The World Will's guidance says the other enemies are over there, and the thief's aura is racing straight toward them. Working out that the 2 belong together takes it no effort. It wrecks the landscape around itself in temper before setting off at top speed. The earthen creature that took food out of its jaws was my tunneling ants. They still carry the giant creature gene that lets them reach 500 or 600 meters. I did not take them anywhere near the limit. 100 meters was plenty to fit 4 people into, one mouthful, and carry them off the field. In soil, the tunneling ants move like fish in water, drilling at a speed that opens the distance immediately. A few kilometers out from the battlefield, up on the magic carpet, Baekhyun and I let out a breath at the same moment. He thanks me for reacting fast, and lays out what he watched happen. Once it was clear we would not arrive in time, I released the tunneling ants from range through the spirit nurturing jar. They swallowed the 4 of them before the attack landed. He calls it a hair's breadth. He says the mission would have failed and Baekhyun might well have died. He would not have known how to explain that at home. I tell him the situation was tight, and that I underestimated this world's proxy creature badly. It also went west first instead of coming for the group doing the most damage. Failing to allow for that was my oversight. The rescue was not free either, since the tunneling ants ate that attack directly and took considerable damage. Beyond the injuries, Baekhyun and the others have been running so long that their bodies are finished with or without the hit. So we pull back, settle our clients somewhere safe, and after that we can stop being careful and have a proper fight. Baekhyun agrees and turns the carpet. At full power, a healthy carpet makes a spent Baekhwa's flight look like walking, so the turtle drops behind us quickly. We meet Chungha and the other 2 coming the other way and stop there. The ground shakes. A mound of earth swells up, and the tunneling ant's massive head breaks the surface. It opens its mouth and spits Baekhwa and the other 3 out onto the dirt. All 4 are glazed in yellow-green saliva and look thoroughly ruined. The smell is pungent enough to bring them fully around, though they are too weak to even wipe themselves off. Seeing the 5 of us standing there, they get the specific relief of people who have survived something. One of them manages a thank you. Being swallowed by a monster is not a dignified rescue, and none of them had ever experienced it before. Weighed against the great terror between life and death, it comes out fine. Arrogant as these people are, they are not unreasonable, and the gratitude is real. Baekhyun cannot let it pass. He tells them he warned them not to run around, and they would not listen. They are weak and love to play, he says, and this time they played too big. Then he asks whether they intend to keep messing around in future. He has never had a kind word for anyone who makes trouble for him. They lower their heads without arguing, ashamed. I shake my head, smiling, and tell him to say less so we can treat them. Xiongha produces fruit with healing and restorative properties. I put the healing ants to work at the same time. They start on the tunneling ants that took the hit, then move to Baekhwa and the other 3. The healing rays carry them from half-dead up to merely wrecked. With his body mostly back under him, Lee Mook steps forward and bows deeply to us. He says words cannot cover a debt for their lives, and that his family will repay it properly once they are home. Then he proposes the retreat. He will report the situation to his clan, he says, and the failure of this mission is not our fault. He puts it down to bad luck, to drawing a world at the very ceiling of the orange level. His family has access to the United Alliance's shared intelligence network, so he knows the orange level statistics well. Fewer than 1 world in 10 falls into the upper difficulty tier. The standing advice on meeting 1 is to abandon the challenge and leave immediately, because the alternative has produced no survivors at all. He removes the Azure Wolf mask, showing a pale, handsome face. He wipes the blood from the corner of his mouth and smiles bitterly. The same statistics say that the more people who challenge a world together, the higher the odds of being assigned a high level 1. That is precisely why they held this operation to 9 participants. They did everything the numbers told them to do, and drew the bad world regardless. His proposal is to withdraw, regroup, and go conquer a different world instead. When they first arrived, they noticed the monsters ran strong and had their suspicions about the difficulty tier. A single legendary kill is not enough to measure a world by, though, and they were still holding on to hope. Pride handled the rest. Intelligence reports are one thing, and none of these people genuinely believed they could fail. Retreat did not become a thought until the difficulty stopped being theoretical. Then the proxy creature arrived far earlier than any of their planning allowed for, and far stronger than their expectations. It nearly ended them in one motion. Having barely kept their lives, not one of them has any appetite left for competing with us. Leaving an orange-level world takes nothing more than another orange-level beacon.